And now it's time for Who's Views with JT and the Whotastic panel.
Hello everybody, welcome to Who's Views and the start of our brand new series, Worlds Below. That's right, we are going to be looking over the next few weeks and celebrating those fantastic creatures, the Silurians and the Sea Devils, fan favourites. And it's amazing, isn't it? I'm going to be saying to the Whotastic panel and to you guys in the chat, welcome everyone. Two initial stories in the 70s and they became very firm fan favourites for decades. Hopefully we're going to be exploring as to why. So you're very welcome. Let's bring them all on though. I've got with me here, of course, I've got Paul with me, I've got George, hello. I've got Jack, and joining third Dr. Ian is that chap. Look at that, isn't that wonderful? Lovely Silurian. What's his name?
He doesn't actually have one, so I'm going to call him Ocdell.
Ocdell.
Homage.
I thought you were going to say Frank or something.
Jack, you've got a friend there as well, haven't you?
Yeah, this is Ocdell's slightly not quite right brother, Jeff.
Yeah,
no, I think he still looks fantastic. Aren't they
Jeff
fantastic?
Looks great.
Everyone?
He really does. Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you for everyone that's joining us in the chat already. So it's lovely to see you all. We want to know what you're thinking. Well, Matt the silent. Let's have a look at this. Is this Silurians and Sea Devils thing for the upcoming spin-off? Well, you might think that, but I couldn't possibly comment. Well, yeah, we've had this sort of season planned, Matt, for quite a while, simply because this is all the build-up. So yeah, we're going to be looking at the Worlds Below series here. We will be looking at the Sea Devils nearer to the time, and then we're going to be comparing and contrasting with the spin-off. So yes, it's absolutely because of this, but we would have got round to it anyway, I'm sure. To be quite honest. Natherstone55 is joining us saying, looking forward to this. Oh, I'm pleased about that. That's great. So am I, actually. We need a little bit of light relief here, everybody, I think, don't we? We need to have a bit of fun. And I think the Silurians and Sea Devils will give us that. And Graham is saying to us, evening all, I think we need a spreadsheet on how often the word kazoo is mentioned tonight. Fair enough.
Kazoo.
Kazoo.
It's one.
Two. Yep. We've got here Graham. Graham is saying that Silurian is awesome, Ian. Yeah. That pop. Yeah. And Jax is really good as well, isn't it, Graham? I know you've seen Jax too. Fantastic. And Martin is with us. Hello, Martin. The Sea Devils was my first Doctor Who memory with John and Joe running down the stairs. Classic Doctor Who. Really was, wasn't it? You know, I mean, again, it's just. I've watched the Silurians and Sea Devils back because we're going to be reviewing them here on the channel. And I watched them back to back and just thought, yeah, this is Doctor Who. This is real Doctor Who. Michael is saying hello to the panel. Hello.
Evening.
Hello.
And there we go. Jax is fantastic too, says Graham. Sadeko24 is saying, I hope this can make me feel better about the show right now. We don't count on this.
Well, classic era, certainly. I'm sure we can manage that to you.
Yeah. Just to explain, so what this is about, obviously, this is an appreciation, everybody, of, and thank you to we've got Kirsty, and we've got Garbage, and we've got Problem Being in the chat with you, making sure that everybody's fine. So nice to see you all. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, hang on a minute. We're going to get to this. Look at what Matt's saying here. Matt is saying, my first Silurian story was The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood. Now, those are Silurians.
Oh,
really?
Well,
right.
I don't know about that. Oh, no.
The gloves.
Can I just check? I thought Kirsty was being sawn in half tonight. She's not busy. So.
Oh, well, she said hello. She might have been past it, but
right,
she probably was being sawn off, wasn't she? Probably being saying to us, Doctor Who and the Silurians is the best, full stop. Well, the gloves are off that because we are looking at these fantastic creatures. We are going worlds below to the home of the Silurians and, of course, below the depths of the world of the Sea Devils. So I'm really looking forward to this. But it wouldn't be right to start without giving a huge round of applause and a mention to this gentleman, because this, of course, is Malcolm Hulke, who created these incredible creatures. And the brilliant thing about it, guys, of course, is they're not aliens. They are not aliens. These are creatures that owned the earth and ruled the world millions of years before the apes became humans. Isn't that fantastic? What an idea he had back in the 70s or the late 60s it would have been to go, there's a Doctor Who story. Now that's Doctor Who, you young people who grew up on the modern stuff. It's just brilliant, isn't it?
It's a great idea. Can I ask the panel here if they know for definite, and this is, I'm aiming at John particularly, is this a genuinely original idea for Doctor Who? It's not been borrowed from anywhere else, just to check.
Planet of the Apes?
Well, that came after,
not quite the
didn't it?
same thing. Not quite the same thing.
And I think Planet of the Apes came a little bit later on the television as well, didn't it, really?
Yeah, apes went before man in that respect. So does anyone think the Silurians themselves was a wholly original idea? I'm hoping it is. That's why I'm asking. So
what do you think in the chat?
I can't think of another instance.
I can't.
It's a genius idea. That's the point I'm trying to make.
It is.
Wholly original is superb.
The Sensorites a little bit.
It's what Paul's trying to get at is the fact that these are lizards that ruled the earth.
Yeah.
And has any science fiction done that before Doctor Who? I can't think of any science fiction doing that before. Although years later, of course, in the wilderness years, Star Trek Voyager did it too.
Yeah.
They had that. Because I remember watching that going, oh, I know where that idea has come from. I hope they give Mr. Hulk's family a royalty, as a nod. But I mean, we do. What a genius idea from the show. Now, Malcolm Hulke, as you'll know, everybody, great writer for Doctor Who, gave us some brilliant stories. But to actually come up with something like the Silurians and the Sea Devils, I just appreciate that so much. I mean, what a brilliant.
They were here before us. That is an amazing idea. It really is.
And Malcolm Hulke expanded on it more in the Cave Monsters novelization, where some of the Silurians kept apes as pets.
Yeah.
And were reluctant to release them because they thought because the impending comet about to crash into the Earth.
Yeah. Sadeko saying Stingray did the idea of undiscovered undersea civilizations, but it wasn't quite. They weren't lizards as such, were they? They weren't because we had all the thing about Atlantis and all that, but they were not. They were humanoid, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
These were the other side. I mean, what had happened if the moon hadn't come along? That would have been, the apes wouldn't have been allowed to evolve, and therefore we wouldn't be here. I love that twist and everything here.
Oh, so do I. And the fact that I love the idea, the backstory of the fact that it was the moon that caused them to hibernate, or this impending disaster. So they hibernate and they sleep in. That's superb. It really is. Yeah.
It really. It's so. I mean, we've got to talk about it. Both the Silurians and the Sea Devils, but the introduction with the Silurians. The storytelling is absolutely 100% watertight. It is spot on. We're going to be talking about this more next week, of course, because we're reviewing Doctor Who and the Silurians next week at this time here on the channel. But this is our overview show where we get to talk about our favorite bits, your favorite bits, design. We are going to be talking about design. We're going to be talking about the evolution, Matt. We're going to be talking about how they get from where Third Doctor Ian and Jack have to where they are now. So we're going to be looking at all our editorial comment. We've also got Time Lord Boy. Where are you there, Time Lord Boy? He's saying it was a very clever idea. Absolutely, it was. And he's also saying to us, I think I'm more of a fan of the old Silurians.
Well, it's funny you should say that. But
I tell you what,
by old you mean original.
Yes.
I tell you who else is a big fan of the Silurians as well. It's one of our many resident artists that love to send stuff into us. So always thank you so much for everybody that actually contributes to the show by sending stuff in for us. And Stephen Braddock, are you there? He sent in this for us.
Oh,
wow. Very nice, Stephen. That's superb.
Yeah.
Another fantastic pencil or ink drawing from Stephen for us. So thank you for that one, mate. Of one of the original Silurians, as Third Doctor Ian and Jack are illustrating this evening, which is wonderful. We've got that.
GT, I've got a suggestion. If you get a collection of these, you do a gallery with some of the soundtrack from Silurians, a bit like Vision On. kind of thing. You know, like
we could. It might not have to. It might not be that soundtrack because I can't afford the royalty.
Of course, you can do that. Yeah. we can't even hum the da da da. We can't even do that. Can we?
We can't even do that. Yeah, gosh. So thank you for that, Stephen. I just love that. So thank you very much. We have got some more artwork coming up throughout the show from other Who viewers as well, based on this story, Worlds Below. We've got to start though, haven't we, with this original meeting, this famous meeting of the Third Doctor with the Silurians, 1970, everybody. And yet, so well written, so well produced, so well acted. Even the Silurians would stand. The whole thing stands up today.
I think that particular moment is such a defining Doctor Who moment. You get the monster reveal cliffhanger at the end of episode 1, and then Pertwee's Doctor just turns around, instead of recoiling, being in horror or being scared of it, just turns around and goes, "Hello, are you a Silurian?" And it's just such a defining Doctor Who moment.
But the thing about it takes so long. They're very good at keeping the suspense going for a long time before you actually see the monster completely. It's great.
Yeah,
he is quite scared at first though when he initially sees it, and but then he chooses not to let his fear get the better of him, which I like.
Totally, Jack, because that's a very Doctor thing to do, isn't it? Really, because
he didn't burst into tears, that's for sure. So
that's true. He did burst into tears, but I know what you mean, Jack, because he looks at it in a sort of like, oh, because again, we've got to remember this is a Time Lord, and even though he's sort of aware because he's a Time Lord from Gallifrey that Earth would have had previous owners. Even at this point in his life, he must have been thinking, I never thought I'd get to meet them necessarily.
Well, he's probably seen the Time Lord files, the same as the Master did in the Sea Devils.
The Time Lord files. Yeah. I can just imagine them in a
They're
filing.
very extensive, aren't they?
Yeah. But it's a great moment. I mean, let's talk about it. I mean, we are going to talk about the Silurians a little bit more, but I just love when this is going on, the whole thing about this build-up. And it must have been, again, as I've said before, it must have been a joy for the youngsters watching it in 1970 who suddenly go, oh, they're not monsters. They're not aliens. They are...
They're indigenous.
Well, that's Hulk's genius, isn't it? Because he's taken the Invasion Earth concept and he's turned it on its head, because the actual invaders, if you like, are the humans. So we're, in a way, we're the ones tramping all over somebody else's world. It's just that world is Earth. And I think I can't think either where it's been done anywhere else. So I think this is completely original. And you get where the Silurians are coming from. It's that sense of absolute outrage of the mess we've made of what was their world. But I mean, this story, that scene where the Doctor's face to face with it, we're talking 7 episodes, and I think that's pretty much halfway through the story, because we've had that first episode, which ends up with the Doctor in the caves and the dinosaur and everything, and then we've got Major Baker going down and wounding it, and then it gets out, and then it's rescuing it, helping the Silurians and rescuing it and getting it, but trapping it in his cellar, and then it comes out and kills him. But all the lead up to that, the build up to it, I love the way the Doctor's popped in to see him before, and he knows that he's up to something, but he's saying, your thermostat's turned up rather high, isn't it? Like the reptile house at the zoo, and then he goes, but he's peeking through the window, and
he gives a wee wave as well.
Yeah, and it's a brilliant build up. Then he goes back, and the guy's dead, and then boom, you see it. I mean, 1970, just in color as well. Yeah. I mean, imagine the impact of that.
5:15 on a Saturday afternoon.
I always thought, in particular all these decades down the line, one of the big Doctor Who what ifs, if with the Spearhead from Spaces series did go over to being an all film series, how brilliant it would have looked if the Silurians were shot entirely on film.
And on location as well, completely in the caves. That'd be, it's amazing anyway, but imagine that as icing on the cake on top of that. Would be superb, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But under film studio lighting and all the rest of it, how good those creature designs would have looked and what you could have done with the lighting.
Yeah, definitely.
And the camera angles.
There was never an era that demanded all on film. It was Pertwee, and arguably Tom Baker as well. Yeah. But it was the 1970s, full stop. Yeah. Should have been entirely on film. It would have been
lovely, wouldn't it?
There is an amazing
They would love it. Sorry, Paul. I was going to say they would love it if it was on film today because the Blu-rays are coming out now.
Yes. Yeah, because you'd have every story in true high definition.
And they'd slap another £15 on it, wouldn't they?
I'd pay that, GT. I'd pay that.
I think we all would. Well, listen, guys, we're getting so many comments, Paul, in the chat here. Go on.
I was going to say what I really like about this particularly is all the location work is superb in it. Particularly getting back to the bit that Ian mentioned about them coming out of the caves after Major Baker wounds that particular Silurian that stays with Dr. Quinn, and you end up with a fantastic shots. Timothy Coombe did 2 stories. I wish he did more. It's such a shame because the photography in this is amazing, and that shot where the Silurian comes out of the caves with the sun splitting the camera and then the perspective of the Silurians' 3 eyes and stuff is superb, and just the shots of the hand and things like that. It's just done so well.
It really is. And again, we're going to be looking at these stories in depth, separately as well, over the next few weeks, months even, actually, if you think about it. We're getting so many comments, guys, coming into that. It is lovely to see you all. Thank you for joining us for our Worlds Below premiere, if you like. This is the start of our series where we're going to be looking at these fantastic creations from Malcolm Hulke. And we've got Legion of James here saying the Target novel, The Cave Monsters, is outstanding and really did expand on the story. Now, this is the case, guys, isn't it? Because this is taking us back. Thank you for that, Legion of James. Nice to see you, mate. I have to say, this, because I've got it here, this is my original version of this book. You can see it's very battered and bruised and well-loved and faded. Look at this. It's just... Ooh, lovely. Yeah. Now, this is what, even that cover. Look at that cover.
Yeah, that cover's great. Yeah.
Iconic with the dinosaur.
And Pertwee looks so blasted cool.
It does, doesn't it?
Yes. I mean, how many people can carry off having a volcano erupting on their shoulder?
I know.
And he's not even flinching.
But I have to tell you,
tough he is. Yeah.
I'm going to tell Jack and everybody else as well. This was one of the first Doctor Who Target novels I got, and I devoured it because, of course, the book came before me seeing the show. Because I was born in 1970, and when this book came out, the picture of the Doctor on the front itself was enough to sell it to me. But of course, this one I've got is 1974 edition. And I got it, I can't remember when, but it must have been around by then, and I devoured this. And this story showed just how solid the story actually is, written by Malcolm Hulke again. Absolutely fantastic. And George, in those days, of course, because we didn't have videos, we had to rely on the Target book for other things. The impressions it gave me because of these pictures. I want to show the illustrations. So hang on. I want to show these illustrations because these illustrations stay with me up until the day I got the VHS.
Yeah.
And then I was a little bit, so we've got some of these.
Yeah.
This one, wow, look at this one where the Doctor's dragged off into the cave.
I notice how Liz looks very like Joe Grant there, don't you think?
Yeah.
But it wasn't quite like that in the TV show. I remember being but the illustrations set it up for me when it comes to the Silurians. I was thinking, hang on a minute, because this one also made an impression on me, because there he is sitting in the chair having a chat.
Well, he looks like he's on Wogan or something, doesn't he?
I was just about to say, Paul, that's the Silurian version of Wogan, isn't it?
Where he's talking to the ape-descended primitives, saying, "Why do you think you have a claim to the planet?" It's like the famous interview with Wogan and David Icke. That's what that one will be. And then this is the one that really got me, Jack. I don't know if you've seen this one, but this one stayed with me for years because this one I thought was just utterly scary.
Oh God, yeah.
Look at that.
Liz
that is unbelievable.
Looks very Polly-esque, doesn't she?
Yeah,
I suppose so. Yeah, but there he is, just all those beams and stuff coming. I mean, it's just, that is proper sci-fi, isn't it? Absolutely gorgeous illustrations there, stunning stuff from Target.
Yeah, and like you, JT, I knew the novel long before I saw the series. Again, it was when the VHS was released that I saw it. And were you as surprised like I was how much the novel differed from the actual televised version?
I was, and I don't know if it was surprised enough or a slight sort of shock because this has been read so many times, and then you see that VHS version, you go, "Oh, they've missed that bit," and actually. They couldn't have done because the TV show. I had to remind myself that the TV show came first.
Yeah.
But when I first watched it, I thought, "Why haven't they got names?
Why haven't they got names?" Yeah. Which is where
be careful what you wish for. That came later. So
Iktar came later,
Yeah.
Which I think is quite. I think the name Iktar is quite good for a Silurian.
Not sure about Tarpok though. I have to say.
Tarpok. That's more Star Trek, isn't it?
Talking of pictures, can I just raise this again? I mentioned earlier. I have my copy here of the 10th anniversary special. I hold this up here, and this picture of I don't want to damage this. I'm trying to hold on to this very carefully.
Yeah, be gentle.
But the picture of Silurian here fascinated me as a kid. Absolutely loved this. And I hadn't obviously seen the episode at that point, but this picture was amazing. The design is superb.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
it absolutely is.
I mean,
and it was the same for me. That was the first time I'd seen it. Same magazine around the same time when it came out. Because when that magazine came out, they were just at the start of Series 11, weren't they?
Yeah,
so we got a little bit of a précis of the stories yet to come. It was the first time we ever had anything like that. And it was just unbelievable. That more than probably any of the other monsters that were in like the Troughton or the Hartnell pages. This was like, it looked real. You know, the eyes and everything. It just looked real.
Yeah.
It's just really creepy. It really is creepy. You know?
Yeah. Well, it really is. And they look so good. I mean, I love that point you've just made there about the fact that they look different to anything that's gone through previously with the Hartnell and Troughton eras, because they are totally different, aren't they? Yeah. This is Doctor Who sort of growing up a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, as far as Man in a Rubber Suit goes, this is one of the very best ever.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
Graham's saying to us, how good is Liz in the Silurians too? She's a fantastic companion. Obviously, we're going to talk a lot more about Liz next week, and as we look more in depth at the Silurians. But she's good. She's good in this, isn't she? She really is good, and she's one of those few people around that actually understands where the Doctor's coming from and where the Silurians are coming from, because she's a scientist. Yeah, and she's not going to fall in with the brig and everybody else who's just going to go. You know, like that clown from the Ministry or wherever he's from. Heaven's sake. That was a running theme in Pertwee's time, though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Lex is saying to us as well, we need another writer like him again. It's never going to happen, my friend.
No, it's not.
Unfortunately. Never going to happen. And JWC Reviews is saying, good evening, humans. Go, good evening, humans. I love that. Given the influence of Mark Hulk, is not the Silurian Sea Devils not a commentary on colonialism? Well, it would be looked at like that today, I'm sure. It's very relevant to today, I guess, in parallels, isn't it? Strangely, all these years later.
But it was it can be watched on many, many different levels and not have it rammed down your throat.
Yeah. I mean, as I was saying at the top of the show, I reckon, JWC, that this could be repeated today on BBC 4 over 7 nights quite easily. If they had the nerve to do it, because it's good storytelling, it's so well produced, the Silurians look good, and the whole thing about the issue of, well, the human attitude is harming the Silurians and later on the Sea Devils as well, because we just don't want them there. The human arrogance, it's very topical 54 years later. It really is.
And I know we'll speak about it more, but it's a great cast in this story as well. But,
brilliant. Oh, we've got loads of that to come next week, haven't we? Jules, hello, Jules. Jules Sherwood is joining us. First memory for me encountering both the Silurian and the Sea Devils was with Peter Davison in Warriors of the Deep, with, yes, the infamous Merca. But apart from that, it's still a good story. Glad you like it. I have a sneaking respect for Warriors of the Deep as well. And this is where George will go, oh, God.
I like half of it myself, but that's another story. But
I can watch it quite happily. It's you and me, Jules. No one else, just you and me. Warriors of the Deep, 2 weeks' time with us.
I can only assume that Ingrid Pitt had some mortgage arrears to pay off.
Hey, look at this from Stephen, who gave us our art at the top of the show there. I'm so glad this is now in colour. I first saw it in black and white, and the scenes through the Silurians' eyes on the moor are so well shot. Now, a lot of people will understand that, guys, will they? Because for years and years and years, we only had access to a black and white version of the Silurians. And back in, what was it, 93?
That's right.
Yeah, they coloured it along with the Demons and Terror of the Autons.
That's right, yeah.
And that was a big thing for us back then. Jack, I don't know if you know about this, Jack, but that version that you probably love and have seen now in colour was breaking technology at the time. Fandom was all like, wow, give it.
I remember a feature on Tomorrow's World about the colour being restored to Doctor Who.
Yeah. Did you know about this, Jack? Or we break?
No, I knew they had been previously black and white, and you can kind of tell because I find a lot of some of the Pertwee stories a bit difficult to watch because the color's very sort of radiant and it kind of hurts your eyes sometimes. So you can tell that it's a black and white copy that's been restored. But
or some of them are conversions from American formats as well, which make it a bit odd as well.
Yeah. And then there's that Dalek one, which is chroma dots.
The chroma dots
was the.
I enjoyed that story very much. Revenge of the Chroma Dots was really good.
Was part of the colour recovery on the Silurians a surviving domestic American Betamax videotape recorded off air? And they took some of the colour.
Was it from Canada? Maybe from Canada, I think.
Or was it? I thought it was Australia.
Right.
It was somewhere out of the UK. And thank you for whoever it was that gave it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a domestic Betamax recording that had survived.
Yeah. And it's so clever what they could do back. I mean, we're talking the mid-90s there, nearly mid-90s, wow, really.
And then when it
got you may be right, George. I remember seeing a clip from a colour version of that, and it was from, was it Channel 17 Buffalo or something like that? Was it? I think maybe ring a bell.
I remember.
To some people, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Is that a real channel?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I love all that. How bizarre. Jules is saying to us here as well, original Silurian design is the best. The new ones look too human. Yeah, we're going to be talking about that in this particular show. So thank you for that, Jules. I agree with you. And Alphabet Cat. Hello, Alphabet Cat. Nice to see you. Warriors from the Deep get slated. True, it's flawed. What with the Merca? But I like the downbeat ending. It's a case of the execution being off for that story. Whereas Tadeko is coming in saying, I hate Warriors of the Deep. It's worse than Jodie's stuff. Is it?
Whoa,
Guy,
whoa. Get that man a drink and tell him to calm down.
Sean Cryer, hello Sean. Silurians held the tension so well over seven episodes. I never get tired of it. That's what I mean about this being such a fabulous, well-structured story as well, and why it could be shown today, because it is actually a story. It's got a beginning, a middle, and end, and it all makes sense. It's just a beautiful written story.
Beautiful story, great direction, and that scene at the station with the plague is amazing.
Yeah, I was just about to say, going back to great direction and great camera work, the scenes of the plague spreading are so well done.
Yeah. And as I say, we will be talking more about that next week when we look at the actual episode. But so 2020, wasn't it? I'm sitting there watching that the other day, just thinking, I can relate to this bit now. When we all thought we were going to... anyway, we won't go into that as well. We've got here from Rick Storm. I prefer the original Silurians. I'm not a fan of the updated ones in New Who. And problem being, as it is with us as well. Thank you, mate. Silurians should look like Silurians. Reptiles aren't exactly on the evolutionary fast track. It makes no sense. They're suddenly very human and under 40 years. Yeah, I mean, they tried to sell us it was another faction or another... spin-off of but why were they frightened? We've got some pictures coming up on that as well, but why were they frightened to go down the monster route as well? Why not bother with that? It's such a shame. Time Lord Boy is saying to us, I quite like Warriors of the Deep. See, there's three of us now. That's great.
I can't tilt my head around for Sea Devils,
It's got its moments, hasn't it, Warriors of the Deep? But I think one of the things about it is that it was lit too bright. If the power had gone off and it was emergency lighting in the sea base, and then you'd seen the Sea Devils and everything, and perhaps the Merca even in that kind of like half or reddish emergency light, I think it would have looked entirely different again.
I agree with you on that one. I mean, it's a long time since I watched it, but I remember watching it thinking, that's clearly a large, expensive set, and yet it's been lit like an afternoon chat show.
Yeah. Well, you know what the BBC was like, especially then. This top secret.
I mean, to give Penn and Roberts, his due, there was a lot of problems on that show. It wasn't entirely his fault, but we'll talk about that another time, I'm sure. But
Jules is saying, watching Doctor Who and the Silurians at the moment, and I forgot Paul Darrow was in it before he came back in Time Lash. Yeah, and actually he sort of acts in this one as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
In the Silurians.
He's more restrained than Silurians, yes.
Yeah, he hasn't got to that point where he's the star.
Unlike Peter Miles.
Peter Miles is superb in this.
And Turtlove is joining us. Hello, Turtlove. Nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. It was actually Terence Dix who suggested to Matt Hulk the idea that the Silurians have been there all along. Terence corrected the interviewer who made this assumption it was Hulk's idea. Do you know what? I think I remember reading that in the making of Doctor Who, the original one. You're right, I think. Yeah.
Was that because Terence Dix and Malcolm Hulk were having a conversation? Terence Dix said, right, Doctor Who from now on is set on Earth. Yeah. And Malcolm Hulk puffed on his pipe and said, well, old boy, you've got two stories. Mad Scientist or Earth Invasion? Which one do you want?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he proved him wrong. Yeah.
But I think that's the thing about Terence Dix as a script editor. He really brought the best out of the writers that he got. You know, he brought on Bob Baker and Dave Martin and everything else, but who did great stuff, obviously. But people like Mac Hulk, who in private lives, I think politically and everything else, their outlooks couldn't have been more different, but they worked together, didn't they? Yeah. And one complemented the other and just elevated him to the point where he wrote stories that 50 plus years ago, we're still talking about it like mad fan plonkers that we are. You know?
Yeah. I mean, another point of case there is Don Horton with Inferno and the Mind of Evil.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
I think a lot of great writers came out from that period, but I think certainly Malcolm Hulk, I think the fact that Terence had great respect for Malcolm Hulk being a mentor of his as well, and I think that really, really helped the relationship, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Well, they partnered up for the War Games just a few months previously.
Yeah.
And they did some
He
Avengers
brought on Robert Holmes as well, didn't he? Because he'd done the Crotons prior to that. Who would have thought you could go from the Crotons to Spearhead from Space?
And you can't just gloss over the space pirates, Ian. I'm sorry about that.
Well, you know, that's black from my memory.
This is how we used to live, everybody. Can you imagine a room with all those guys in the same room, which would have happened, and not one of them would have got on politically at all, really? They would have all had different opinions, and yet they all liked each other. They were all friends, and they all worked together. That's the world we come from. Goodness knows where that's gone now. The Silurians and Sea Devils must be laughing at us right now. Oh, look, here's somebody else. Well, Paul's saying to us there, it's a great science fiction and horror story, bags of creepy atmosphere and superb actors. And then I genuinely love Warriors of the Deep, says Graham. Oh, look, there's 4 of us now. Yay! And Paul is also saying the Merca was a real crappy pants moment. What's it? For the rest of us of a certain age, it was a, oh, God.
I thought the crap was on the screen for the Merca, but there we are. I mean, I might be wrong.
Lex Kane is saying to us as well, in the doctor's laboratory and the way the doctor falls reminds me of a headache advert from Anadin. And Paul Ashworth, thank you so much for that, for your super sticker there. This one's a little yellow person blowing a trumpet with a little... Was that a doggy with him? So thank you so much for that, Paul. Appreciate your super stickers. You know I get sort of I don't know why I'm like a kid. I think they're so funny. I don't know why, but thank you for that, Paul. Yes, what was that? Oh, yeah, the bit where the doctor's in the laboratory. That's actually quite a scary moment.
It is. When they burn through the wall, that's great. But it's Pertwee's gunning. Sorry, Ian. That kind of makes it a bit silly, doesn't it? Really?
He rolls his eyes, doesn't he? Does the eyes into the...
He loves doing that. You know,
that scene, and the one where he visits the caves and walks in on their control room.
Yeah,
were in the Who's Doctor Who documentary, I think, but in their in their only retained black and white at the time. So that was one of the 2 scenes from this that I had seen, and still was just completely enthralled by these monsters. So,
it's funny they colorized the clips on the new one that came out for the season 14 box set when they brought out the Who's Doctor Who. So all the clips are in black and white and now in color on it, which is interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Yep. I mean, again, looking at that one though, watching it again back for our review next week. It's the way they walk, the way they handle themselves, nearly human but not quite there. So you can relate to them again. It's amazing, really, because these are reptiles.
Yeah, and the young Silurian have got real attitude as well, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, look at that pose; it's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, the way reptiles move is they dart about when they're mimicking that. I think the only element that doesn't quite work is I don't think the voice is right for them.
Do you know, really? I think this voice is superb. Really is.
Oh, yeah. I think it just doesn't gel with the visual presentation of them.
I think that the older Silurian one works better for me. It's the high pitch one's not so good.
What the electronic one from the 80s?
No. There's also the old Silurian, young Silurian, and some of them have deeper voices.
Yeah.
And so the younger one's got more of a high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
Again, I quite like that. I mean, again, it's like they were doing the Daleks at the time. It shows different characters, and that's the other reason I think we can relate to Silurians, and also in an extent to the Sea Devils as well, because they are the cousins. Yeah, and it's a case of like, because they've got this whole. It comes out a lot, doesn't it? You've got this whole society here, this whole culture. And it's actually quite disappointing to find out that in the Silurians, they are fighting amongst themselves as well. They've woken up from hibernation, and you've got these tiers. And it comes out later on in the Matt Smith era, which is basically a carbon copy of the Silurians, really, with extra bits thrown in. But it's just wonderful. But it's quite frustrating that they're acting like we are, if you know what I mean. They can't agree either. It's a bit upsetting, really, when you think of these things. These creatures are down there, you know.
But Peter Halliday was very busy that season and the previous season doing alien voices, wasn't he?
Yeah. So I quite like the Silurian voice that way. I quite like the fact it's sort of like Bill and Ben, sort of, because I think it's a case of it's sort of subterranean for me.
Well, that section, I know I don't want to keep going on about the episode itself, because I know we'll cover it next week, but the bit with the grate.
We can repeat ourselves.
When Dr. Quinn's speaking to them and you hear the voice through the grate, which always reminds me of a gas fire or something. It's really odd. But it's kind of, you get the voice and you don't see who's behind the voice, and that adds to the intrigue.
Yeah,
and it's quite a scary moment, I think.
Yes.
But,
as if he was a confession.
Kind of, yes.
I mean, it must have been fantastic in 1970. This brand new version of Doctor Who with this new leading man, this very dashing Doctor,
and the introduction of Bessie as well.
Bessie, you've got the unit set up, so it must have been a culture shock for regular fans at the time, regular viewers at the time. Stroke of genius coming up with the Silurians, or as a whole generation knows it, the cave monsters, because of this book.
To this day, I still call it the cave monsters and have to correct myself.
Hello, yeah. But it must have been, it was a stroke of genius to say, how can we do it again and put a spin on it, wasn't it? And
can I just say, Jack's got a kittling in his
oh, really?
house. I'm just checking there. Yeah.
Oh, there we go.
He's going to get transported to another world any minute now. So,
yeah, at least it's not a Silurian cat.
At the moment.
With their eyes there. What was the thing? Yeah, but again, for a certain generation, I mean, these things are iconic. Now, isn't that incredible? Because they had one outing in 1970, and then in a different form in 1972, and then that's it. We don't see them again for years and years and years and years. And I think it's down to things like the Target books, the Doctor Who monster book.
Oh yes.
This image stayed with me.
Cards.
This image stayed with me for years.
The cover of the Piccolo making of Doctor Who.
Yes, and I think I saw this first in black and white in one of the, it was, I think it must have been the Doctor Who monster book. It might have been the weekly. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, if there's a small selection of images that just speak John Pertwee era, that's one of them.
Isn't it just?
There's quite a collection of these ones, isn't there, from this particular session?
Yeah. There's an absolutely fantastic studio shot taken at the same time with Pertwee's karate chopping the Sea Devil.
Yes, I'm saying that when we do the Sea Devils.
And he's talking to it at one point, isn't he, with his finger up?
Yes. Yeah. But these images were released to us, and we got to see this as we're growing up. And I remember when I saw that particular picture, I remember thinking, I would love to see them. And the book was the nearest thing we got. The Target book was the nearest thing we got to it. But I remember just being enthralled by the Silurians and the Sea Devils because of their look. I mean, they were so alien. And then again, when you saw various pictures with them with Pertwee, they seemed to be taller than him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just wonderful. But how clever were they to say, right, we're going to do it again, and we need a spin on it, and we'll do something like this. So, yes, this time we've got reptiles in the sea.
Well,
that original picture from the fort you put up there JT. That is my earliest memory of Doctor Who, is that particular scene. And that scared the hell out of me. Yeah, when the Doctor electrifies the door, the Sea Devil burns through the door, he meets the Sea Devil for the first time. And that's my most vivid, earliest memory of Doctor Who. Now, I don't remember if it was a repeat or original broadcast, but that's the bit that's etched in my memory as a kid. And it still gives me chills when I watch it even today, 100 years later. So, yeah.
The Sea Devils, for me, is one of the cementing Doctor Who stories. It was my first Target book. And that original cover, which to me, to this day, looks like the poster for some big action movie, with the two Sea Devils framing the submarine coming towards you, John Pertwee looking like James Bond, Katie on the cover there. That's just a fantastic, fantastic piece of artwork. But back at the misty dawns of time, I used to go to what was a combined infants and junior school. So I was there for 7-8 years. And the school had a video recording of the omnibus version of the Sea Devils. And, last day of term treats, this huge TV on casters got wheeled out, and I think it was a U-matic video recorder.
Oh my gosh.
Reel to reel.
Yeah, the school technician in, the brown lab coat and all the rest, it came and fiddled with it. We all sat there and we watched the omnibus of the Sea Devils yet again. So I got to see that numerous times. And because of that, it became so firmly embedded in my memory. And then when the full 6-part version became available, it was almost quite a shock going, oh, there are other bits.
They didn't have Marco Polo as well, did they? Or Power of the Daleks?
Not that I'm aware of.
It's down the back of George's settee, I'm telling you.
I think it's just the Sea Devils. But yes, my infant and junior school had a U-matic videotape of the omnibus of the Sea Devils.
Yeah, I love that.
Paul and I are the same age. I think we're literally days apart, aren't we, Paul? And
yes.
My earliest memory is the very end of Frontier in Space, but I remember Sea Devils and the scenes you're talking about etched in the memory. And I can only think it's because I don't remember anything before episode 6 of Frontier, but I remember Sea Devils, and I think it has to be from the repeat because that was marginally after Green Death, I think. So just one of those slotted in on a Saturday afternoon opportunist things, and you were just right place at the right time.
Yeah, Christmas cancelled was the strike at the BBC on the department.
We'll just point out to all our friends abroad out the UK that they repeated the Sea Devils in an omnibus format. Was it over Christmas?
It was a Saturday afternoon.
I think they did it twice, didn't they? Once
I think the omnibus got 2 or 3 airings. I think there was one occasion when a sporting event was cancelled or couldn't be broadcast.
That's what I remember.
The omnibus of the Sea Devils was, hurriedly put out in its place.
Yeah, you see, that's when that shows you again how popular these villains were. I don't really want to use the term monsters for the Silurians and Sea Devils because they're not really. They're just, in the context of the show, they're doing what they think is right, just as much as the humans are in all their stories. But we'll call them the villains. But they were very popular, so they got to get these. Peter Venkman is with us. Hello, Peter Venkman fan site. Got to love how the Doctor just shrugs off hearing them burn through the wall, like when you think you've heard something and think it was nothing until it was. I get what
he's writing his notes in Silurians. Yeah.
Exactly. Milo is saying, it says, Lee, problem being that's your cat, isn't it, Jack?
Yeah, I shut the door so he comes in through the window, and that's why I had to turn my camera off because he was
cunning.
Out again.
Great location filming too, says Graham. That bit on the marsh with the Silurian calling device, wonderful. Now that actually carries over into the Sea Devils, isn't it? Doesn't it really? There's a message for you, Jack. Because the location filming for the Sea Devils is also incredible. It's so top notch. It's just wonderful, and of course, it gives us one of the most iconic moments in Doctor Who, and it's the first time that this happens. It's repeated in various forms later on in Doctor Who's run, but this is the first time that we actually get to see this with these creatures appearing from the depths. And that hit the chord with the British public, didn't it?
It's iconic, absolutely iconic. Although the story that Terry Walsh tells about it and Stuart Fell tell about them coughing and spluttering as they come out does kind of kill it a little bit. But
well, I would imagine they would. I mean, one story I remember hearing Mr. Walsh say as well is that they had to walk backwards into the sea and then bob down like this. The director wanted them to do that. I don't know if he was joking or not. Really, I think
they had to hold the breath, didn't they, so that the water that they weren't in view and then start coming up.
Apparently, there were quite a few shots which weren't used because the light was fading when they were shot, and then when the film was processed, it wasn't of a broadcastable standard because the light was fading so rapidly.
And yet, if you look,
you can kind of see that in the footage that exists in it, can't you? Really?
I was going to say that there's when you look at the Sea Devils now, there is that sort of darky, grainy version, just for a few seconds in there, where they're actually coming out onto the beach and it's quite dark. You think, oh, hello, that's quite.
Yeah, because I think Michael Bryan salvaged what he could out of it, but he shot more stuff which couldn't be used.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just this is again another example of British classic television doing something wonderful and not afraid to actually scare the kids. Jack, can I ask you, when did you first discover the Sea Devils?
Well, when I was a kid, I only had a small classic series collection. It was mostly Dalek stories and Tomb of the Cybermen, but then I thought I'm going to branch out, so I got the Sontaran box set. I think they'd just been in New Who, so it was quite cool to see the classic ones. And on the DVDs, you usually get a trailer for other DVDs, and I saw the trailer for the Beneath the Surface box set.
All right.
It blew me away because these were the first monsters I'd seen that were exclusive to Classic Who, because the Chibnall one hadn't aired at the time. It was David Tennant was still the Doctor. So these monsters were completely new to me. And I just asked my mom, I was like, please, could I have this? And she got me them, and I just remember sitting down and watching them, and just they instantly became some of my favorite monsters because they're just so cool. I mean, I was a dinosaur kid, so humanoid, anthropomorphized dinosaurs was just the coolest thing ever.
That's brilliant.
It was also building my Pertwee collection because I only had the Time Warrior. And so I had the Silurians and the Sea Devils, and he was becoming a really favorite Doctor even back then. And just the Silurians and the Sea Devils, I love them equally, to be honest.
Yeah,
I can't say, Jack, it just warms my heart hearing you say that. It's superb. And it's like an old fart saying this, but having your point of view as a younger fan, hearing you watching this for the first time, I wish I could watch it again for the first time myself. It's just great hearing this. It really is.
It is. It's brilliant, isn't it? And I love that the fact that everybody in the chat as well is saying things like, Atherstone 55 was saying that's my favorite scene, the invasion on the beach. As a casual viewer, that's the image I remember the most. As Gilliam Georgie Boy Gilliam was saying to us here, not as good as Ursula Andress. Poor Rose.
I've never seen her in a string vest, to be fair. I don't know.
Poor Rose is also saying the Sea Devils appearing out the water made a big impression on me as a kid. Paul Ashworth is saying, love the Sea Devils coming out of the sea. Absolutely brilliant. And Julianne is with us saying, yes, walking out to the sea. That's the scene engraved on my brain as a kid. I know I've got some older friends here that would say the same thing. They'll say, oh, the first moment I remember in Doctor Who was the Sea Devils coming out the sea. That was that short scene, because when you look at it, it's actually quite short. That was the impact it had on kids around the country. So good. Graham is saying that his friend's cousin is David Griffin, who played Commander Mitchell in the Sea Devils. How fantastic! Wow. How lovely. And Geordie Boy, sewage would ban that shot now. Oh dear. Legion James. Sorry, a second, George. Legion James is saying it's possibly my third Doctor bias, but John Pertwee seems to have an abundance of iconic imagery, moments, and stories, and possibly the most out of all the Doctors, George.
I mean, I absolutely love the Sea Devils. It's one of my all-time favorites. If I was to do Desert Island Who, I think Sea Devils would be one of the ones I take with me. Yeah. But one thing that's always bothered me about the story is, where were units? Were they using up flexi time or something?
They're all on a holiday, aren't they?
Maybe they were battling something else. I don't know. I don't know. But I don't know. But I like this from Graham. Graham is saying to us here, you would have thought Sea Devils would be a poor copy of Silurians, but it's equally wonderful. Both these Hulk stories are real top drawer. Yeah. That's the brilliant thing about this, because it could so easily have been, Graham, couldn't it? A carbon copy, but they were so good then. They knew they couldn't do that. You would get that today. You would get I mean, we're going to come to the Chibnall one in a minute, which I looked at again recently because we're going to review it soon. The Hungry Earth and Cold Blood, and thought this is the Silurians with different bits added. You know,
Another.
Sorry, George, go on.
I was going to say another thing of note about the Sea Devils was it was the only time in his run that Pertwee actually said reverse the polarity of the neutron flow.
I know. Yeah. I know, it was in there, and I forgot it was in there. So the other day I was going, yes!
But that was the one and only time he actually said it, despite what Terrence Dicks said for decades.
I know. X-Man577 saying, hello, who's news? Well, hello to you. Hope you are well. And Babette Bombshell is coming up saying, I'll be curious if we see Mira Sayal return in the spin-off. She played the Indian woman who stayed to live with the Silurians at the end of Hungry Earth, Cold Blood. That's very true. I really liked her character as well. I doubt we'll get to see her in the spin-off because A, she costs a bit of money, and also she wasn't with the Sea Devils, and it's only the Sea Devils coming back as far as we're aware. But I don't know. Cameo appearances, something like that. That's the story in itself, though, what they've set up there with Mira Sayal and her love interest, isn't it? But she's another example of those companions we never got. She would have been brilliant with Smith. Oh my God, she would have been brilliant.
We talk about the scene of all 6 of them coming out of the water. Well, it was supposed to be more, wasn't it? But that particular picture. But they did it twice, didn't they? Because you've got to throw in Delgado as well. When he traps the Doctor and Joe on the minefield and he gets the Sea Devil, we get a single one coming up at that point, don't we? And chasing. That's etched on my mind as well. That's just...
What is it about the single Silurian Sea Devils that makes me go, oh?
Yeah. But that scream they do in episode 2 and in the minefield is really heartbreaking, isn't it, as well?
Yeah.
He's lovely, though. The Sea Devil. I don't like the way he just goes screaming back to the sea. I don't like that. I think, oh, no, leave him alone. And the other one I like is this one that Stephen's telling us about. My favourite was Green Gilbert on the submarine. I like him, too, because he goes to try and play cards.
Yeah.
He's like, well, what do you humans do? Show me how to play.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's not how you play Consequences. Yeah,
it's the way we play.
Yeah. But it's just brilliant dialogue again. But I found myself really protective towards the Sea Devils. I'm just like, no, leave them alone. They're quite cute. I'm 54. What's that about?
Little Sea Devils, quite cute.
Oh, they're so cute. I actually really like. Jack, do you love the Sea Devils as well?
Yeah, I love them. It's taken me years to realise they're just turtles.
Kind of are. Yeah. Although they remind me of spaniels as well, a little bit. They kind of,
I mean, Warriors of the Deep, they were Ninja Turtles, really, weren't they?
Yeah.
See, copied again by Hollywood. Yes, there we go.
I do think
another thing that cements the Sea Devils as one of the Doctor Who monsters for me is for years in the Blackpool exhibition, as you went into the TARDIS control room, there was one to your right as you walked in. You pressed the button in front of it. It was bathed in green light, and it lunged towards you.
It did. They actually changed years later from the
Gundam robot.
Yeah, the Warriors Gate thing.
Yeah, the Gundam robot had the animatronic skeleton after that. Because I remember the year it changed.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I remember walking in, looking around, expecting to see the Sea Devil there, and I was like, "Where's the Sea Devil?"
Oh, I loved him.
And I was gutted that it had been moved.
Yeah, I might have some pictures of it, but if you went to the Blackpool exhibition, you remember the Silurians and Sea Devils being in there, and you've got pictures, send them in to us. You can get in touch with me, whosviews1@gmail.com, and we'll put them into the shows, I think.
It was nice to make a cameo in Blake 7 as well, wasn't it? But,
oh, yes, it's Series 4, Episode 1, in Terminal. There was a Sea Devil there. I remember being horrified back in 1981 watching that episode. No, you can't do that.
Watch Russell T Davies try and make it canon.
Let's look at this though, because these designs are just stunning, aren't they? And I love the little round guns. I think they're fantastic. But in this story, of course, they're quite fast because they're jumping all over the naval base like nobody's business, aren't they? And
Yeah.
go, boo, hello.
I do love the fact that Michael Bryan didn't want naked sea devils, though. That is brilliant.
So he put them in fishing nets.
Yeah. Sexy
But it's
sea devils,
genius, that, isn't it? It's genius. Just putting them in old discarded fishnet. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Just absolutely brilliant.
One thing I don't know if it was done by accident or by design. One thing I think is really clever about the Sea Devils design is no two are exactly the same. They all have their own individuality.
Yes, they do.
They change color in the story, and there's a reason for that. The ones that are outside on the naval base are more brown, with highlights of green, because that's how they were originally. But I think what they said was it was because of them being in the water, they become a bit eroded. So to fix it, they painted them green, and that's why when they're in studio, they look a completely different color.
Because the location filming would have been done first.
Yeah.
And talking of location filming, how fantastic is that bonus material on the DVD of the 8mm home movie stuff?
Yeah,
all the location work at the naval base.
Yeah.
Pertwee's in his element, though, isn't he? Because I mean, at the same time, he's still doing the Navy lark at this point, and he's ex-Navy. This was just, this was just the coming together of so many things that he held dear. You know, the Navy lark, the Navy itself, Doctor Who. That was a man on the top of his game, having the time of his life, I think.
The Sea Devils is also one of my favorite master stories, and I think it was the first time I saw Delgado. So this was quite a monumental thing for me, because at that point I'd only seen John Sim, so this was my first taste of the classic master.
Oh, really?
Anyone who likes the clangers can't be all bad. That's all I'm saying. But,
I mean, I think this is peak Roger Delgado in Doctor Who: The Sea Devils.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the absolute epitome of being the master in that one. I just don't think he can be bettered.
I agree.
No.
I love that. I love how you put the
little things. He's watching telly, and like you said, mentioned the clangers, and they do rip it off with John Sim and the Teletubbies. But he's there and he's looking at it, and he's just whistling along to it, and he's on his own. He's not doing it to, you know. And then Trenchard comes in, and he just plays him for a fool, doesn't he? The master knows exactly what he's doing, and it seems to be an interesting life form.
Well, I often wondered if he was the master was being gullible. Like, he does this wonderful, like he went like he's been caught out. It's quite funny, you know.
But then he looks away, and just to himself, he's like, brilliant.
Yeah.
But as Stephen just said, that, you know, Roger Delgado can look equally menacing, you know, as a pretend Navy admiral as he does in a blue toweling robe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like what Jack's saying there about Delgado, because this is, and as you're all saying, you know, this is Delgado as the master in utter control. He's supposed to be in prison, for heaven's sake, and yet he's running around owning the place, isn't he? He knows about the Silurians because of the Time Lord files. He knows about their cousins, the Sea Devils, because of those same files. So he's there to say, right, I'm near the water here. I'm going to do something about this. I'm just going to come and we're going to cause some trouble, because that's all the master wants to do, really, isn't it? Yeah. But again, I have to feel sorry for the Sea Devils, because the poor things are being manipulated by this nasty Time Lord, and they don't realize it. And he's running them riot, isn't he? And again, you've got the hierarchy in the Sea Devil ranks as well. Say, shouldn't we? Oh, yeah, that whole thing about should we trust the humans, which we can all understand. Should we not trust the humans? And the master's going no, and then you've got this other fellow with the white hair going no, yeah, it's fine. We'll sort out some pieces. I had to feel sorry.
And again, he almost convinces them, doesn't he, as well? The master.
It's great how it's great how at the end it's like put them both in the cages, you know. So they knew, they realised they were being played, but sadly it was too late.
It was, wasn't it, Jack? Because by that point everything's gone to pot.
It must have been difficult for the Doctor to murder them, to be honest, because it's not something I think a lot of people haven't picked up on. So the Brigadier did it the first time, the Doctor was all upset. The Doctor did it this time, and it's just like, you know, double standard.
I think it was very much as a last resort, though, wasn't it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, you know, the Sea Devils didn't really get a chance to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing where I feel sorry for them here, because they've woken up. the world's moved on. They think that the only sort of Homo reptilia, as Matt Smith would later say, on the planet. Oh, I feel really bad for them. I'm like, oh, bless them. I do. I just want to get those lovely, gorgeous cheeks and go, oh, you little good she devil, you. I just think, and the fact that they do show a certain aspect of themselves, like Gilbert, as you were saying in the chat, looking at them with interest to say, what are they doing with these card things? What are they doing here? How are they social interacting? I love all that element there, where they are intelligent creatures. They are intelligent scientific creatures as well, and they're studying us just as they would have done the apes. I just
my favorite scene is where they're in the submarine and they look at the porthole and you just see the one peek up.
Yeah,
I thought that was really good.
I love that as well. That's brilliant.
Is it when the doctor's in that little diving?
It's when the doctor's in his
with the eye
down.
that comes up like that.
Yeah.
The camera. It's great.
Is that actually in water?
At that point, no, that's studio.
Yeah.
Just lit.
Yeah, there's two versions, isn't there? There's one on film where you can see Pertwee and Katie in the
diving bell,
and then there's a not very successful attempt to recreate the thing in studio. And you can hey, that's the other thing I liked about it as well. The Sea Devils, again, I was just saying there, how clever are they? What's that? Actually, they use this pod thing for transporter. Yeah. They used that years later as part of the TARDIS console for Christopher Eccleston. But anyway, it's so clever.
Can someone please explain how they got the Doctor out of there without getting him wet?
No, I can't.
No idea. Yeah.
They must have put that transporter thing into the diving bell for him.
Yeah, I think so.
Through
the floor.
Yeah. But they did it very quickly, didn't they, though, Who viewers? That's the say. Bring it up. And the Sea Devils are going,
well, it would have had the Doctor with the bends if he came out there alive, wouldn't he? Because it came up so quickly, But...
Yeah. Stephen Braddock saying to us, doesn't the Doctor call the Silurians the Eocenes in this story? They still didn't get it right. I love all this continuous thing. Only in Doctor Who fandom will you get Doctor Who fans and various people going along saying they're not supposed to be called that. Who cares? Who cares? It's just brilliant. Silurian is a great word. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's a much better
There's a great
monster
info
name.
dump that Joe gives the Doctor about the Silurians as well in part 2, isn't there?
Yeah.
She explains the backstory, which is quite good, But...
Nowadays, that'd just be a little flashback, cutback scene like they did with the butchered Daleks, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Oh, God. Oh, can you imagine, Who viewers, if they ever got their hands on the Silurians and the Sea Devils? It would be on for 10 minutes and it'd be utter nonsense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Really, really would. Thank you for that, Stephen. And John saying Roger Delgado showed a lot of courage doing some scenes in the sea. Yeah, we all know that he
did.
He hated the waters, didn't he? Bless him. And there he is, suffering, literally suffering for his art. What a guy.
Totally.
And who doesn't love a sea turtle, says Stephen Braddock.
At the end of the story, though, I do ask myself, how many latex masks of his own face does the Master carry around with him?
Is that egotistical in that incarnation? Millions.
Yeah. Was he inspired by that fella from Thunderbirds who always wears masks?
I love that when Pertwee says, "What doctor?"
Yeah,
realizes it's a fake. It's brilliant.
Yeah, but you know what, Jack? If he was busy watching the Clangers, he was watching Thunderbirds as well. I tell you. He would probably switch over and go, "Well, this one's cool. I like this one."
Yeah.
I love Ainley.
ITV as well, then, did he?
I love Ainley, but Delgado was different class, says Graham. Oh yeah, but two different portrayals, wasn't it? Really, absolutely fantastic there. And what else we got here from Problem Being? He's saying, I grew up with Ainley, but couldn't imagine anyone else playing the Master. Then I saw Delgado, and now he's my favorite. How fantastic! And
we mustn't forget. Peter Pratt and Jeffrey Beavers in between the two of them.
Yeah.
And I love Peter Pratt's interpretation in Deadly Assassin.
Yeah. But we're not talking about the Master really in this show. We're talking about the Silurians and the Sea Devils. So actually in this one, the Master does, unfortunately for me, take the lead where it should be the Sea Devils. See, because they're growing that constant war in that series, aren't they, between the Doctor and the Master. So that's the Master's arc all the way through the series. But the Sea Devils, I think they should have been on a level that the Silurians were from their story, if you know what I mean, because
they are sidelined a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, and the iconic story moments from this story do come with the Sea Devils, not with the Master necessarily.
Yeah.
But then Terrence Dix and Barry, about 20, 30 years later, did say, "Oop, we got that wrong. We overused him." You know. But there we go. Well, we got this from Lex. Lex Kane is saying to us, when the Sea Devils came out of the water, imagine if they used the shark theme from Jaws. It would be amazing. You can do that, though. You can play it back now and you can do it.
And yeah, but
Malcolm
another
Clark's score is scary enough, I think.
Another big Doctor Who what if Dudley Simpson had been the composer for this one.
Yeah, listen, let's talk a little bit about the music from the Silurians and the Sea Devils, because they're both what we are going to be doing this. We are planning as part of this show to be doing a special show which is about the music accompanying the Silurians and Sea Devils. We're putting that one together for you as well, so that's going to be an extra for you. But it is a bit. I got used to it in the Silurians, and then you're hit a couple of years later with what's coming off the back of the Sea Devils, which of course is the first time that it doesn't happen again until the 80s, does it? With the complete
electronic score.
Yeah. For me, it does sort of work, having watched it back recently.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
I don't mind it.
I don't think it doesn't work, but I do find myself thinking, it would have put another layer on it if Dudley Simpson had scored it.
There's an awful lot with the Silurians that I hear in the Revenge of the Cybermen, though. I mean, and Death to the Daleks. There is a consistency, with the composer, Mr. Carey. There, isn't there? I mean, it's just, but it's all starting there.
Yeah,
it does all start there.
Yeah, who doesn't love a crumb horn? Let's be honest.
There was a video doing the rounds of somebody had taken some of Dudley Simpson's cues from other stories and redubbed onto Death of the Daleks and Revenge of the Cybermen. As far as I'm aware, the Sea Devils wasn't done. And the difference it made to those two extracts that were done was incredible. And my brain just sort of transposes that over to the Sea Devils and the Silurians.
And Mark,
Dudley Simpson's mastery of percussion. The scenes on the oil rig where the Sea Devil is lurking in the shadows. Yeah, the tension and the extra fear that would have been put in those if Dudley Simpson had done his usual stuff with them.
Possibly. Mark McIntosh is joining us saying, "I love the Sea Devils track on the Doctor Who the Music LP." That was so important for myself. Because that's the first time I heard the soundtrack for the Sea Devils, and was actually that's not what I was expecting. I remember 1983 that came out. As a 13-year-old, I sat there, needle on the record. That comes on, and I'm like, "Wow!"
If you're not expecting it, it makes you jump, doesn't it? Because it's a really loud intro.
That beginning is incredible. And I wasn't expecting it because I hadn't heard the soundtrack by that point, of course, because we hadn't seen the VHS copy at that point, and I don't remember seeing. Probably because I was too young. I don't remember seeing the repeats, hence the Target novel being the first one I've got. The first, and the expectations of the Target novel again, because that's another cracking story, the Sea Devils.
Yeah.
There's some bits he put in there as well that were in the show, I tell you. If you haven't read
the joy of the novels, wasn't it? That so many of them had lots of additions to them. They made it far more exciting growing up, didn't it?
I love that prologue to the cave monsters. That's just all about him, and then as he just takes one last look at the sun before he goes down in the lift, and then he just says it was the last time he saw the sun for I can't remember how many million years. And it just hits you with it. Brilliant stuff.
Absolutely fantastic. And I reckon it was that prologue that actually inspired Blood Heat with the New Adventures all those years later.
Great book.
It's not a bad book at all, is it? But there we get a different sort of Silurian again, don't we? Really, they're a bit more hard.
Well, we talked about, didn't we? Talk about the comic strips as well in the weekly, and that one that stuck in my mind was the one with the back pages, one about the Silurian who had a pet human who made a crown for him and put the stone in the center of the crown as a gift for his master. And put it on his master's head so his master couldn't use his third eye.
That's right.
And the human kills him. It's a great comic strip. It's superb.
It's a really hard... We've said this before, haven't we? About the Doctor Who Weekly back in 1979, 1980, but then it goes to monthly. Considering it was in its infancy, it was for children. Those back page comic strips were hard-hitting sci-fi and fantasy. Absolutely stunning. So I know that's all, they're coming out in collections now from Panini. So if you haven't seen them, if you haven't been able to see them, Who viewers, they're the ones to look out for. Those graphic novels put together. You will not regret them. I know they're a bit of money. You will not regret the investment because they are stunning stories, and they do stay with us. I remember them all vividly.
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
Great stuff.
Daryl's joining us. Hello, Daryl. Nice to see you. I like the music suite on the LP. It's got most of the creepy stuff. In the story. There's some other that's a bit Brian Eno weird. Yes, that's true. Actually, I know what you mean by that. Yeah.
I love Daryl's concepts for the Sea Devils and Silurians that he's put on X recently.
Well, it's strange you should say that.
Genius.
It's strange you should say that because Daryl, another one of our resident Who viewers, artists, has given us this. Now, this is what Daryl's vision of the Silurians could be.
Oh, that's lovely. That's really nice. Oh. They're almost pig-like in this. It's quite nice.
Yeah.
Very true to the originals.
Very recognizably the originals. Yeah.
But moved on to a modern standard, which is lovely. What do you think of that, Jack?
It's put me out of a job.
So that was that one. Let's see what Daryl made of his version of the Sea Devils.
Oh, so that's just incredible.
A horror film.
Yeah. Well, Jack, you mentioned Turtles Under the Sea, didn't you?
I know, but I mean that's like that's actually quite creepy.
Yeah.
It's lost the cuteness.
I love it though. So thank you for allowing us to see that, Daryl. There is his pictures there. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. I hope you like those. Absolutely wonderful. Hope you like.
You might get a Sea Devil plushie coming from the spin-off, JT, if there's a cute one like Baby Yoda is in The Mandalorian. Probably.
Don't give them ideas.
You know what, though? I'd buy it.
They've already done it, I'm sure.
I would buy that. Graham is saying to Daryl, "Oh, that's awesome." Legion of James is saying, "Oh, wow." Problem Bean is saying, "That's brilliant."
Yeah,
that looks better than what we had in the show. Says Time Lord Boy.
Yeah,
Graham is agreeing with Jack, saying, "Yeah, it's scary." Paul Richards saying Daryl Joyce's art is just superb. Looks so evil, says Graham. And Stephen Braddock is saying, "Oh my God, commission those Silurian Sea Devils designs immediately." And Babette Bombshell is saying that's beautiful. And Graham is also saying fabulous stuff. Daryl, isn't it just? It's wonderful. Time Lord Boy is saying the Sea Devils there look creepy, like they're going to drown you. That's what you would sort of want from certain factions of the Sea Devils as well, wouldn't you? Would want that sort of. Oh, hang on a minute. And Paul Rose is saying the Silurian design is far better than the human-like current version. Oh God, we're going to come to that in a minute. The Sea Devil design again is great, evil-looking with a touch of Skeksis thrown in. Thank you. I couldn't say that, but thank you for that. And Daryl is actually saying to us, there's no need to radically change the designs, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Totally. And everybody will now be agreeing with them as well. But we certainly agree with you. Why would you do that? But speaking of which, we got to the 1980s. This is what I mean about these two iconic villains. The Silurians, 1970, the Sea Devils, 1972. We don't hear from them for the rest of Pertwee's time. We certainly do not hear from them in Tom Baker's time. And then, God love him, John Nathan Turner comes along and goes, "Ooh, we've got the Silurians and Sea Devils. Maybe we should do something with them." Why? I don't know, because he comes up with Warriors of the Deep, doesn't he, for Peter Davison? And
again, like we said, part of the problem is the lighting. If it was darker, more atmospheric, you might get away with that a bit more, I think.
Well, their base, I mean, this is the sea base, as we know, okay? Their own base, the Silurian base, is slightly darker. Can you see a difference?
Yeah, you can.
Why do the Sea Devils suddenly turn into samurai warriors?
This is a question we all need the answer to.
Yeah, cultural appropriation again.
I don't know.
And it was the Sea Devils that were closer to turtles, yet it's the Silurians that have the shells.
Yeah. It looks like they're wearing a body warmer, though, doesn't it?
Yes.
Very 80s.
I remember thinking that exact thing back in the 80s. We know because you saw the first time I saw them coming through was that very quick clip on the coming soon on BBC One for the New Year or wherever it was. And I thought it was a body warmer. I thought, why have they put them in a body warmer? Yeah, it was just very odd, but they hadn't. But
They are
this was,
cold-blooded. Maybe it keeps them warm. I don't know, but
well, I just thought they were not going to be able to swim. They're not going to be able to swim. They're supposed to be.
It's like a life preserver, like a life jacket. It's about like that.
They would float.
They're not underwater, are they? That's the thing. You know?
I mean, this is one thing about the Sea Devil design for Warriors of the Deep that they got wrong is the fact they forgot these things are supposed to be swimming in the sea. They're not plodding along. These Sea Devils for me don't necessarily work because they're slower than they are in the original. I don't like the outfit. I didn't like it when I saw it in black.
I think looking without the helmet. Not so bad, but the helmet just really makes them really stupid.
But they got rid of the fins on the head, didn't they? Which I think.
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, it's a long time since I watched, but from memory, they're missing half the back of the head, aren't they?
Yeah. And I think that's just so they can put the helmet on.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it would be. But why are they wearing a helmet as well? They are sea creatures. They're supposed to be swimming under the sea.
Yeah.
That shot you put up first time, JT, the one with the Sea Devils got his head tilted at an angle, that was just always really bad because obviously the helmet was so heavy.
Yeah, the action side was just
all kind of, you know, do that.
It just made them look dozy, didn't it?
Yeah, they're nodding off.
And the costumes were very, you know, in some of the scenes, especially when you see them from behind, you can see the heads coming untucked. You can see the costumes coming untucked, and you can see masking tape sometimes holding them. Again, probably wouldn't if it wasn't so brightly lit. But
I mean,
you know,
in that shot you just had on the screen, JT, the Sea Devil in the background looks like it's in the chorus of the Mikado.
Yes,
it's such a shame, isn't it? We've got JNT didn't always think things through. Do you know what? Late in his later years, before he passed, he actually admitted things like that. He didn't.
He did,
and he was very full of regret by the time I got to know him. Bless him. And Graham is saying to us here, I like the premise of Warriors, though. I like the two great powers and the treachery. I get that. Paul Richards is also saying, I never laughed so much as I did at Warriors. The karate chop scene is quite something.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's really, what killed Doctor Who, wasn't it? Michael Grade saw that and the Buffalo, right. And that's what did it. Yeah. So that's
right. In case you don't know, what happened is Warriors of the Deep happened to be playing in Michael Grade's office because it was on a weekdays in those days. And he's working late, obviously. And of course, he has all these televisions showing what's on his channel, BBC One, what's on BBC Two, what's on the commercial channel. So he's got these 4 at least televisions. And Doctor Who was on, and he just glimpses up Jack, and he looks at the television at the exact precise time that the Merca's on, and thinks, "What the hell is on my channel?" And that was the start of what became the hiatus in the cancellation.
This might be unpopular, but I've never understood the hatred towards it.
What, the Merca?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic idea.
I thought it looked fine.
I think there's certain shots of it he gets away with it, but other times it's really badly lit. I think we said before, I think the fact it's had production problems, it was rushed, that didn't help it at all, did it, to be fair? But I mean, it had potential, I think.
I liked how it looked. I mean, it's a bit funny where you could see the 2 guys in the body just struggling. Yeah. But I mean, I liked how it looked. I just thought it was a bit silly that touching it gives you an electric shock. It's like, well, when was that established?
Yeah.
Does that make Dobbin canon or not? I don't know.
Yes, I think it does. Under RTD's new rule, it does. Dobbin from Rent-A-Ghost is canon. Paul Rose is saying to us here, both of those designs look very childish. It's almost like caricatures. And yet you can see them. I'll show you in a second. You can actually see that they've taken the Silurians that Jack and Third Doctor Ian have there, and they've tried to copy it, and it just isn't as good as Friedlander's original. For some reason, it just looks a bit more stiff. But on top of that, Sean Cryer is saying, I took this as armor. And yeah, if you look at the original ones, as we're saying, Sean, in Silurians, they didn't wear armor because they were just the reptile.
Yeah.
So why would they come out of hibernation again unless they are really, really going to say, right, we're going to battle?
Yeah, I mean, I can understand, to justify the title Warriors of the Deep.
Yeah.
But it just seems odd to put a reptile in samurai armor.
Yeah. Well,
and they lost amazing guns as well, didn't they? The really bizarre weapons they had.
They did, Warriors of the Deep in 2 weeks' time here on the channel, by the way. So Doctor Who and the Silurians first, then we're going to Warriors of the Deep. Start looking at the episodes now. Start your notes. Come and join us for our reviews. It's all coming your way.
I'm going to have to watch it, aren't I?
You are going to have to watch it, Joe. Lex Kane TV. Lex Kane, true, I like the episode of Warriors of the Deep, but the lighting of the sea bait was too bright, too much light. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
The ending is very dark, but Davison delivers it beautifully at the very end. There should have been another way. That's really well done.
Yeah. And Graham is saying the models are decent in Warriors, I think. And Echo24 said, I'd have cancelled the bloody show over this if I was great. And
well, Ingrid Pitt's career never recovered from it, did it?
No, I don't think it did. I don't think it did.
She's almost unrecognisable in this, though, isn't she? Because apart from her accent, you know.
All that heavy 80s music as well. Problem being saying to us that black sea devil mask without its ears was probably the same one used in Series D of Blake 7. It's not actually. It's one of the original ones because that was Warriors of the Deep came after the Blake 7 episode.
Yeah.
So these were all fresh, brand new monsters.
The one in Blake 7 looks like the one from Blue Peter, doesn't it? A little bit. Is that one?
Possibly. But I remember John Nathan Turner saying there weren't enough of the original outfits. They couldn't use them. There weren't enough rights, so they had to make the new ones up. And I think it was the guys that made the 80s Cybermen, wasn't it, that did them all? That put them all together. We'll find out.
Yeah,
I'm sure it was. We'll find out for 2 weeks' time as well. Sean Cryer is saying the Merker looked like a pantomime horse. Sorry, Jack.
Well, it was.
And, the Merker was ambitious but needed more time and money. That's exactly what they didn't have because the Merker turned up on the day of recording wet because it was still drying.
I do.
And if you look carefully, you'll see Janet Fielding's costume's got green paint down the side of it. Yeah.
Well, I do remember when I watched it. There's one shot you can clearly see Janet Fielding turn upstage away from the camera because she's about to burst out laughing.
Yeah,
which is typical of Miss Fielding. We've also got hello and welcome to Up Close and Acoustic, hosted by Charlie Silvestri. It's nice to see you. Hello there. The problem often with Classic Who was overlighting scenes that not only deserve moody lighting but also suffer from overlight. Yeah. Totally agree.
Part of the issue.
That was the BBC.
Part of the issue with that, though, it was all early colour television. That for the first generation of colour studio cameras to register colour, the lighting had to be so bright because if you turn the lighting down, they would just record a black and white image.
Yeah.
So the studio lighting had to be pushed right up to get a colour signal on the cameras, and that's why a lot of not just Doctor Who, but a lot of shows look overlit by today's standards.
Yeah. They also had the guidelines, didn't they? We've got to remember these guys were professional. And the lighting guys were, we've got to light this, because they were perhaps if they had a lack of those awful guidelines they would have had back then, and more direction to be able to say this is how I see this, guys. Well, like they do now, really, because they all work a bit more closely together now. Where of course the BBC never did back in those. None of them ever did those days. All that eyeshadow, says Graham. It's supposed to be 2084, and it definitely looks 1984. Let's face it.
Yeah. It's like Human League's taking charge.
There was part of Warriors of the Deep that was definitely shot in a film studio, though. I don't know if it was done at Ealing or elsewhere.
It was Ealing, wasn't it, for the tank? The tank.
But the scenes in the refinery, whatever it is, along the gantries and things, which are definitely done in a film studio because of the size of them. There's no way that would have fitted into TV Centre.
No, and they wouldn't have been able to take that tank in the TV Centre at that point either.
But despite the fact that was done in a film studio, it still looked bloody awful.
We're going to be coming back to all this 2 weeks' time for Warriors of the Deep. And Stephen and Braddock says, if I'm going to have to rewatch it, I'm going to watch it with the brightness right down. Why not? Why not? It might look quite good. Who knows? I don't know how the GV is going to be this. Ian McCulloch is decent in this one, though, I thought, says Graham.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
Tom Adams is in there as well, isn't he?
Hey?
Yeah. Tom Adams is in it as well, isn't he?
Yeah. And the music from Warriors of the Deep sounds like a bit of Blade Runner type music, says Lex. I love the music for Warriors of the Deep. I don't know what it is about. We're going to be talking more about that on our Sound of Whoosic show for this particular series. This is Worlds Below. Nice to see you all. This is the start of our celebration and our tribute to the Silurians and the Sea Devils. We're currently talking about their appearances in Warriors of the Deep from the original ones. I just remember 14, bear in mind of 14, I was so excited that the Silurians and Sea Devils were coming back. They didn't need to. I'm going to be very honest. They didn't need to. Nobody wanted them to. They could have left them in the 70s and they still would have been iconic. But here was the third outing, or second for both of them. First time they've been together. Didn't really work in the script either, did it? But I just remember being quite disappointed with the look of them. And what was that flashing red light about?
Yeah, that was a bit pointless.
That was them not doing their research. I mean, it was very, very clear that the third eye was a weapon or a controlling device, depending on the level that you used it. You know, they used it to open doors in their underground base in the caves. They used it to melt rock. But here it's just used as the same principle as a Dalek.
Yeah.
Did
they have
no organic creature would have that.
Did they have the VHSs though to go off like references at that point?
They had the black and whites, definitely.
They would have had access to them, certainly.
Yeah. So again, we're going to be talking more about Warriors of the Deep in a couple of weeks' time, and then they go quiet again, don't they? The Silurians and Sea Devils. Show comes off the air. Yeah, the show comes off the air. Fans take over. The aforementioned Blood Heat from the New Adventures from the Virgin novels turns up. Not too bad. There's a couple of comic strip things out there. There's other fan things that are going on there. So they're not forgotten. And the brilliant thing is, though, they become big. The show's off the air. And us as fans going through the wildernesses, we don't forget them, do we, Who viewers? We still appreciate the Silurians. We still appreciate the Sea Devils. They become part of the great 5 or 6 big bads of Doctor Who, you know. And yet, I'm still going to say they weren't bad. They weren't bad. You know, they're not like the Daleks. No, but they're not like the Daleks or the Cybermen or the Sontarans. They're not aliens. They're actually residents of the planet Earth.
But the original ones were just such brilliant designs.
Yeah.
Well, talking of brilliant designs. Oh, this is where I get really cheeky, everybody. I'm really sorry. Doctor Who comes back in 2005, and yes, all of us know that it's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time because they seem to be bringing back the remember 2005 Daleks? Then we get the Cybermen, and we get the Sontarans and the Master, and you just think,
oh, get the Autons straight away.
Oh, the Autons straight away, yeah. And you think there's a pattern here, and Series 5 comes along, and Warriors of the Deep hands over to this.
Yeah.
What?
These are the Silurians from the Stephen Moffat era, which have since stuck. What gets me about this, of course, we are going to be talking about this now. We're going to talk about the design. We're going to talk about I'm going to mention now. It's Chris Chibnall's story, of course, isn't it, that reintroduces this. So the Silurians get a mask for one thing. They get the string vest and some sort of armor in that as well. But why didn't they go with this?
Yeah, that is superb.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, in case you don't know, this was leaked, wasn't it? Around about, was it a year after the Hungry Earth?
No, I think on Doctor Who Confidential they had a maquette on the behind the scenes on it. I think and when it was shown at the same time. Yeah.
Well, this was the design that was presented to the Doctor Who production team of the 2010 series to say this is what the Silurians could look like for this story, and it was rejected to make them look like this.
It's so lazy, it really is.
It really is, and that doesn't work as well because one, it's crap, but two, they're reptiles without reptile eyes.
Yeah,
you know, I mean, invest in some contact lenses if you want to make it look even part authentic. But they didn't because they want it to look like the actress in this case.
They even kept the shape though. That they took the eye away, but left a place where that could go. It's just really weird. You know what I mean? It's like
I'm not familiar with the episodes, but is there a reason why they suddenly have masks?
No.
They just have them.
They just have them. They just have them. I'll show that picture again.
It's annoying because I think the masks. I thought they were the face. And I actually
thought better than the face, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought that actually whatever they are looks pretty cool because I saw the season 5 trailer and they didn't scream Silurian to me at all. I didn't even think they were coming back. I thought that was something new. It wasn't until the episode actually came round that I was like, that's a Silurian. Like even my 10-year-old self was like, ugh.
I was much the same, Jack.
Yeah. I mean, I'd look at that, Jack, and I wouldn't instantly say that's a Silurian.
But it's not. It's not just this, and this is something that me and Probably Being talked about loads. Is I bought this book, The Monsters Guide, and it's sort of a Russell T Davies era book. And if you go through that book, it's really cool. It gives you concept art and sort of digital mock-ups, and they look incredible. And then you compare that to what you actually get, and I'm like, the designers for this show must have just walked off and gone, right, do you know what? Because you're turning down stuff that looks absolutely amazing for I'm going to say it, cheap crap.
Yeah.
New series Sontarans, rubbish. New series Silurians, rubbish. I think the only thing redesign-wise he got right was the Daleks.
And you can't do much wrong with them.
And it's just you look at this.
But then
book,
they did, didn't they?
Yes.
And you see all the concept for the Sontarans, and they actually look scary. I'm just like, why can't you just go with this? And instead, it's somewhere like some idiot goes, oh no, actually, I want it looking cheap and rubbish. And I just don't understand it. It's just like they're just trying to soap opera even the monsters.
Yeah,
well, totally.
This is very, very niche. But have you ever seen the covers to the Japanese editions of the Target books?
Yes.
That have these really bizarre reimaginings of whichever monster's in them.
Yeah.
That to me is what a Silurian would look like on the cover of a Japanese Doctor Who book.
Yeah, I'll have to sort that actually. What you're saying in the chat for us, Stephen Braddock is saying Blood Heat should have been made instead of the god-awful Hungry Earth. I'm going to put it to you, Who viewers, as well. I've watched the Hungry Earth because, again, in a few weeks' time, we're going to be looking at the Hungry Earth, and then the week after, we're going to be looking at part 2 of that, which is Cold Blood. And I just recognized, having watched them all more or less back to back over the weekend, I just recognized elements of this Doctor Who and the Silurians in the Hungry Earth reworked.
Yeah.
And I thought that's just typical Chris Chibnall then, isn't it? Oh, controversial. But the Blood Heat was something different and heavier. So you got that there. Thank you so much for that, Stephen. Thank you. Matt is celebrating. Yay, we've got to the Silurians from the Moffat era. Legion of James is going on. Although I enjoyed the Hungry Earth, I still cannot relate the Moffat incarnation as Silurians. But Matt is sticking to his guns, saying they look so much better. Now, Matt, I'm going to ask you why. Just put into the chat why you think the Moffat era Silurians, which is standing to today, look better than the one that Ian's showing you there. And just let us know.
The originals for me are so much more alien, and that's what makes them work for me. The alienness of it.
Graham is saying to you, if you never knew, you would have no idea they're supposed to be Silurians.
Yeah,
and Paul is stating something important. Reptiles shouldn't have breasts.
Well,
can I just point out the other thing about these new Silurians that we saw here? They're all female, apart from a couple. Yeah. They're all male. The whole warrior class system is female.
And I should probably mention, JT, that even though they're all female, watch behind the scenes, they're blokes.
Are they?
They're blokes under the masks. They're the same guys that do the Cybermen, all them. So it's funny. Can we cancel Chris Chibnall, please?
Well, I think that's
they were just identifying as female reptiles.
I was going to say before, when you put that photo on screen, JT, that if you got a male lizard and a female lizard side by side, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart. You wouldn't be able to sex
well,
them.
Let's have a look at
that. Male, that one's female because of these identifiers. All of a sudden, we've got the Silurian equivalent of Barbara Windsor there.
Well, I want you to stand by your bed here, George, because George doesn't know about these things. I want you to stand by your bed because you're going to get quite upset about this. Because let me just show you again, tied in with Jack's point there. The designers did understand Doctor Who. They did what they had gone to. They'd gone back to the source material and they put that together. That is a lovely continuation of the 1970 Silurian. That's what we should have had, in my opinion. However, because they've gone, if we had that, that would have changed what was to happen in every consecutive story since, because we went to this, as I've shown you there. Then we also had this character's sister, which the only slight difference there was these red bits that were coming in, right? But we did have 2 male Silurians, George, in this. We had the High Leader, whatever he was called. That's him there. And we had a scientist. And by this point in this story, what this story suggests is that the warrior class is there, the science class is here, and the 2 do not get on. Now, considering that they should have been in hibernation until this drill thing wakes them up, how's that happened? How's that happened? So how it's done, George, is it's a different element of the Silurians. They are related again. So this is a third version of them. It doesn't really stick with myself. However,
that crossed my mind just when you put those photos up, JT, is all of a sudden Silurians have human teeth as well.
They do. Look at that. They're there. It's absolutely ridiculous. They I don't know.
It has
work
a bit
for me.
Planet of the Apes now, hasn't it? A little bit. So
it's all because I believe the designers who came up with this eventually, and also the production team at the time, were going on about, oh, there's more interaction with the actor, all this pretentious nonsense. No, we don't want that. That's not what Doctor Who's about. Yeah. An actor gets into a rubber suit and plays. That's what we want in Doctor Who.
Did Neil Gorton design the proper ones? We'll
have to check that. We will have to check that for our Hungry Earth review. However, Who viewers, this is what George won't know about. It gets worse because the design is taken and incorporated, and as the show moves on, we find that there's one Silurian that's living a life in Victorian England out of hibernation for whatever reason as a lesbian.
Oh, is this the one with the Sontaran butler?
Yes.
Oh. Paternoster gang. Yeah.
Excuse me, I'm just going to have a head in hands moment.
And the whole of Doctor Who fandom, apart from the newer ones, some of the newer ones went, what?
Yeah.
What? Why?
Well, I did as well.
Yeah. I mean, we all wanted to know what the hell was going on. And I bet Bombshell, who's in with us in the chat tonight, hello there, was having a bit of a laugh about this and sent us this piece of art. What would have happened if they'd gone with that design?
Tongue would have gone a bit far.
That would have been hilarious, wouldn't it? Because this was just George on the right there. That character is the wife of the Silurian.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have meant Jenny was into some kinky stuff, wouldn't it? Really?
Yeah.
This is where it was starting to get a little bit uncomfortable for me, Doctor Who, because I'm thinking, what are you trying to tell children here? Because this was coming under bestiality, really, wasn't it? I just thought, hang on a minute, what's going on here? So here, the writing team and the Doctor Who production team are a good 10 years ahead of where things are actually heading right now, with certain elements of that ever-growing acronym. But I was starting to think, this isn't good. I don't like this. This is not comfortable. Just me.
I thought the concept was naff. It was naff. It really was. It was devaluing the whole thing that the Silurians ever stood for. Can you imagine going back to the Silurians in 1970 and Pertwee goes down to their base and there's the lead Silurian and Mavis, his wife, who's human. I mean, it's just like, no.
I mean, I can picture it
and
now.
it would have been Doris, I would have thought, though, Ian, to be honest.
What, before she met the Brigadier?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, can you imagine? I mean, that whole thing, I mean...
There's no respect for the source material. There's no respect whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, there isn't really at all. Matt is saying he's staying with them. He likes them. Well, that's good for you. That's good for you. And he's saying here, Jack is insulting my favorite monster redesigns. Well, that's fandom for you, and we're allowed to do it. We're sitting here on the panel, Matt, saying we're disagreeing with you because they're bloody awful. I'm going to show them again, Matt. I'm sorry if we're going to annoy you or offend you here. That is awful. This is not a Silurian. Let's have a look together, shall we? So they have originated. They have originated from these creatures.
Yeah,
I don't see how.
I think as makeups go, it's a good makeup, but they're not Silurians. That's the thing.
And to try and pass them off in the script to explain their choice of makeup, it's a different sort. I mean, the Doctor actually says in this, and I'm going to add at this point, Matt Smith is wonderful, I think, in these elements.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah.
But he says at this point, I haven't actually met your part of the species. I've met something different. And he plays it as though somebody's primed him. He actually plays it when he takes the mask off and goes, "Wow, okay, that's different." So yeah, but for a lot of us, it just, I mean, as George says, look, it's got teeth.
Yeah, like I said, it's a good makeup, but it's not Silurians.
It's something that you would imagine coming out of Star Trek, where most of the time it's people recognizable and just under heavy makeup. But Matt, Matt's view, we pretty much all disagree with it, but his view is completely welcome and encouraged, isn't it? Because that's what we do.
Absolutely. Well, Matt is saying to us here, the Silurians are similar and related to humans. No, they're not. That's the whole point of the story, Matt. In the original series, the proper Doctor Who, they're not. They're the original inhabitants of the planet Earth before the moon arrived and before all the continents separated. They ruled the dinosaurs, the Silurians and the Sea Devils. You can just imagine all these massive cities and civilizations that the Silurians and their cousins, the Sea Devils, built on land. And bearing in mind that back then, the mass of the Earth would have been more sea. So the Sea Devils would have been amazing cities all over the place. But they ruled the dinosaurs, all those incredible creatures that would have been under the sea. They used them as pets and let's be honest, to be servants as well.
I like to think I like to think the Sea Devils were the postal service. Like if you needed to send anything abroad,
really,
swim it over
with the whales and stuff like that. But the point there with Matt, Ian, sorry, just for a second. But point with Matt, you can finish that. Is basically what comes along with that is that's the whole point of why the Silurians and the humans cannot live together, because the Silurians used to rule this planet. They still see it as their planet, and we are the apes that have got too above themselves. And that's the whole point. That's the drama of the Silurian Sea Devil relationship with us, because they look down at us and going, that ape should be exterminated. That ape has no right to be where she is. Go on, Ian, what were you going to say?
Well, I mean, just following on from that first, though, that they tried to eradicate every single human on the planet, didn't they?
Yeah. Nearly won.
There was no relation in there between the species. They wanted them gone. But, you know, that's just how brilliant the whole story was, wasn't it? But I did like in Silurians where they found in Quinn's drawer that globe where all the landmass was together.
Yeah.
And now, of course, that's known to be factually accurate and referred to as Pangaea, isn't it? It was wonderful stuff.
Well, we know that, don't we? I mean, that has now been proved, hasn't it? And this is before the asteroid or whatever it was that arrived to destroy the dinosaurs as well. You know, it's before the moon came into contact, as we said. I thought from this book, The Cave Monsters as well, I mean, I'll have to read it again, but my very younger self, thought it was the asteroid that was coming to kill the dinosaurs that put the Silurians and Sea Devils in hibernation. And then, you know, I don't know where I've got that from. I had that in my head from somewhere in you know, from my youth. So they said, oh, well, it shows you how the Silurians and Sea Devils work. Oh, well, just like all the dinosaurs die, that's fine. And we'll come back and we'll build again. You know, we'll see what's out there.
It's a fantastically logical explanation, though, for why they went into hibernation, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. But I still love that
shout out for the audio book, though. Caroline John reading the audio book. Wonderful.
Yeah, that one. Yes. That is a good story, that one.
Ditto Jeffrey Beavers doing the Sea Devils.
Yeah, that's a good one as well. Daryl is saying to us here, Hungry Earth has elements from the Demons too. Village under a protective dome. I do think Gold's music is actually pretty good in it, though. More restrained than his RTD fare and quite creepy. Yes, I agree on that particular one as well. But the best elements of those, and we'll come to that in a few weeks' time when we're doing the Hungry Earth and Cold Blood reviews. The best elements for me out of the whole thing, unfortunately, is Matt Smith, but also the fact that the suggestion of the Silurian world is there. You can now at last see it. It looks quite good, although it's a bit dated now. That's it. I don't get sold by these new fangled makeup designs at all. I look at them now and I find that it's a little bit painful for me.
Yeah.
It's a classic example of how, you know, old television wasn't afraid to scare kids, but now it's just like, oh, we mustn't terrify them too much.
Actually, that's a good point, because we're getting that today as well, Jack, aren't we, with the reboot for Disney Who? Oh, we can't terrify the children too much. We'll stick a drag queen in there. Guess what? That would have scared them more than a Silurian, I tell you.
But it scared me, I'm telling you that.
Yeah, why not? Why not do that? So Sydney Rough Diamonds here, everybody. Hello, Sydney Rough Diamonds. How are you all? New Silurians remind me of the Azaris from the Mass Effect games. That's gone totally over my head. Don't know what that is.
Well, I know the Mass Effect games. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Is it a film? Oh no, is it a computer game?
Video game series. It's very good. It's kind of like, it's a bit like a more action-packed Star Trek, really. I mean, if any of you are interested in getting into games, I'd recommend it.
No. Thank you, though. Thank you. I'm not. Homo reptilia is what the Doctor called them, says Matt the Silent Wing Music. Yeah. Yes, he did. But they're not supposed to be. They've said that because that's how they've made them in this version. And unfortunately, we haven't seen the last of them. So this is speculation, but it's pretty obvious to me. This is from the forthcoming 2024 Christmas episode, Joy to the World. That is a Silurian of the new version. What the hell is he doing in a hotel? And why is he working in a hotel? And why is he out of hibernation?
It's just so boring.
I mean, just looking at that one photo, my brain is just saying to me that's a comedy parody of it now, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so watered down now, isn't it? This has to be. I mean, we're all assuming it's a Silurian, but look at that dot thing. Can you see that round thing on the side there?
Yeah.
On the side of his cheek.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. It has
Even
to be.
the forehead shape is the same, isn't it?
It has to be. I mean, it's uncanny, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a male Silurian. So,
but it seems bizarre though if they are going to do this as a comedy character, and they're bringing the Sea Devils back in the spin-off, why would you put that in now and make the Sea Devils look rubbish or ridiculous by doing this comedy character? It's really weird.
Because Russell doesn't care.
Just
Possibly that may be right. Yes.
Yeah, just going back to that image of the latest version of the upcoming Silurian.
Yeah.
What's the betting that his pronouns are going to be on that name badge?
Oh, very probable.
Yes.
You can do that now. Thank you, everybody, for all your comments in the chat. Absolutely fantastic. We've got Problem Being saying to us here, the Silurians shouldn't look anything like us. We're two totally different species. And that's the context of the story. Because, you know, I was looking at Silurians, as I say, Sea Devils, and then I looked at the two Matt Smith ones. And the theme running through them all is that the human race just wouldn't be able to handle these things coming up from the sea or beneath the sea. I look at where we are now in reality, and I just think, absolutely, because they would just come up for it. The Silurians would just come up for air and go, "Oh my god!" and push the button, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
They'd get rid of us all very, very quickly. 2020, everybody. There's me starting that conspiracy theory. They don't call me Fox Mulder for nothing. Paul Rutgers is saying to us, the new Who writers turned the show into a parody, and it doesn't look as if it's going anywhere soon. So Sydney Rough Diamond, I have no idea who the Paternoster gang were. They were introduced into Doctor Who so cruelly. So George is on the same page as you as well. Dalek Eye, nice to see you. That was the most stupid thing ever, along with the bumbling Strax. This is when I really started to worry about the show. Snap, absolutely. What else we got here as well? Yes, Lex is saying they look too much like the original V lizards and Star Trek Voyager dinosaurs. Nothing beats the original design. I think most of us are on the same page here now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Julianne is saying, why use the Silurians? Why not use an original creation or call them something else?
Yeah.
Because they can't, because they haven't got the imagination, my darling. It's as simple.
Yeah.
But don't worry, you don't need any knowledge of any Doctor Who before shooting. Apart from every story which dredges something up from the past.
Exactly. New Silurians are an awful cop-out, very new Star Trek-like. I think we were all saying that at the same time, weren't we, Mike Disney, back in 2010, saying that's a Star Trek creature, not a Doctor Who creature. I'm sure there was a lot of that, because I remember taking part in that conversation. And Babette, who gave us that funny illustration there, the only way I can forgive this is if we get a Silurian story where a Silurian mad scientist tries to humanize his race in order to make them more palatable to humanity. A Silurian Civil War story. I mean, that's sort of been there since 1970, though, isn't it? Where the two factions are in their society to show the ironic parallel to the humanity.
So
it's clever stuff. It's good stuff from Malcolm Holt.
So to try and get on with humanity, Silurians now work as duty managers at a Holiday Inn Express, do they?
Well,
that's what it looks like.
It did get out of hand slightly. I remember thinking to myself at the time, this is getting ridiculous, because this character is called Madame Vastra, and as I say, this is the Silurian that's out of hibernation. I don't think it's ever explained why. Who's a lesbian who has a wife living in Victorian England and becomes a Sherlock Holmes of her day. She becomes a detective. Now, this story runs through several stories and ends, thankfully, with Deep Breath, where Capaldi is introduced.
Yeah.
But it's also implied that she can fight. She is a warrior. She's sort of got the samurai sword type thing as well. I've got to be careful what I say with that, with things going on at the moment. But also, she eats humans.
Yeah.
Does she?
Yeah.
Yes, it's implied.
Do none of those people in whenever it's set, do none of them go, "That's a lizard"? You know, because I swear she shows her face several times and people just
unless she has, and it's never been referred to, but unless she's got some kind of TARDIS-like perception filter.
Yeah, but isn't that just like a get out of jail free card?
Oh yeah, completely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%.
But do you know what I would say in relation in response to that, actually, Jack, is the fact that that wouldn't be very inclusive of you, would it?
I don't know. I mean, there's that many things we have to include nowadays.
Exactly, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's you know, I'm being hypocritical there. That's what Doctor Who was all about from around about that time on. It was people not noticing each other's difference. Even if there's a walking, talking lizard in front of you, you have to be inclusive.
Even a T-Rex.
Even the T-Rex. Yeah, nobody bats an eyelid. Nobody talks about it ever again. Absolute nonsense, isn't it? Sean Cry is saying that was terrible. It's terrible. And Raymond is with us saying a bit of DH. Problem being, say, more Who making a mockery of the classics. I want to move on again because eventually, this is the one where I know nothing about it. Eventually, the Sea Devils did come back, and this was in a Jodie Whittaker story called "The Legend of the Sea Devils." So, for those of you that watch this, now this is actually a lovely design, apart from the god awful outfit. But the masking is wonderful. The mask looks fantastic. I believe there were animatronics based in it as well. How did the Sea Devils evolve in this particular episode?
Well, this was set in a different time period from the 20th century. So it was about 18th century. Was it Ian, or 19th century, something like that? I can't remember. 17th century, something like that. Yeah, I can't really remember. It's all a blur.
Yeah, around that era.
Yeah. So, but they do look very much like the original Sea Devils. I didn't mind the costume quite so much. It's better than the samurai costume that we had for the Warriors of the Deep. It's not a patch on the string vests, but it's okay in the context of the story. But they're dressed a bit like pirates rather than kind of a race of their own. They look like human pirates, don't they, Ian? Is that right? Would you say?
Yeah, and it was very sort of like Chinese orientated, wasn't it? Whereas there'd been samurai before, which is Japanese. So I think, they're all over the place, really.
I mean,
trying to make them Johnny Depp, basically, aren't they?
Yeah.
I actually chose not to watch this, not just because I was done, but because I love the Sea Devils, so I'm just like, I'm not going to put myself through that.
There are some elements
it was
in
a
it
horrible
that
story.
actually works quite well, but the episode itself is appalling. It's the worst episode of Doctor Who ever. But there are moments in it. The Sea Devils work quite well, but there's only a handful of moments in it, I would say.
Has that been topped yet, though?
Well, being the worst episode.
Yes,
I don't think so. No, I think still it
has. I mean, Shooty's episodes have scored. If you're talking ratings wise, Shooty's episode have come in under the Legend of the Sea Devil.
Oh no, it's just that when I watched the Star Beast, I think I might have lost a few brain cells. So I'm just I can't know because I've lost.
Not as many as the people that wrote this stuff have, though.
No, exactly. But I hate to think, Jack, on that point, I hate to think how many brain cells we've lost watching all of these episodes so far. I need to mention, Paul, thank you for your message here. We'll have a Sea Devil in a relationship with someone in the spin-off next. Interspecies love and acceptance. Listen, I want to ask about this, though, because why did has it been explained, because you guys were following that series from Chibnall and Whittaker, has it been explained in anything why they so drastically altered the look of the Silurians and yet kept their cousins, the Sea Devils, very similar to their 1972 originals?
Not a mention of it at all.
Right.
Now, would it be to try and reverse the declining ratings? Oh, this will bring the fans back.
That's very cynical, George.
Or not, as the case may be.
Or not, definitely not. Yeah, no one.
Well, it didn't. Yeah, it didn't got 2 million, didn't it? Which is
when I saw the trailer for it at the end of the previous special, if you want to call it that.
Right.
And it turned up. I had conflicting thoughts. It's a Sea Devil, and it looks like a Sea Devil. Mm-hmm. I'm curious how they come across on screen, but the other part of me was, this is something precious to me and they're gonna F it up. Mm-hmm. And they did come across okay on screen in certain areas, but the story really effed it up.
Yeah.
I mean, all I can say on it was I wasn't even aware that the Sea Devils had featured in it again until the last touring Doctor Who exhibition came to Liverpool, and I went to see it, and one of the Sea Devils was in there.
Right.
And I sort of went, it's obviously based on the original one. I had absolutely no idea that they'd returned to the series.
It was next to a Warrior's Silurian, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I think so.
And a Sontaran, I believe, if I remember rightly, because I saw it in Liverpool as well.
Well, there you go.
What's bizarre about it was they used CGI to make the mouth move slightly, and they had, going back to the Warriors of the Deep Silurian, had this pendant around their neck which would flash when it spoke.
Why?
Again, to tell the audience which one's delivering the dialogue.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, basically, yeah. So,
well, that's ridiculous. I mean, in the context of the character, they don't need that because they'll know which other Sea Devil is talking or what we call them. That's a shame. You have given us lots and lots in the chat here as well. Thank you so much. I'm actually shocked at some of these because Dalek Eye was saying to us here they can jump very high though.
Oh, they can.
Really?
They're great in the Olympics. I'll tell you that. You know.
Well, Sean's also said they could fly. Why would a creature that is born and a ruler of the sea fly? Why would it do that? I don't understand.
Sorry, just to clarify, are we talking flying, jumping sea devils here?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
It was more jumping than flying. It was like
I don't recall them actually
building a single bound like Superman, you know. But
okay,
I recall the underwater scenes where they were swimming round in fast circles like a shoal of whatever the group of sharks is. But I don't recall that being in the air. I don't think I recall them. But,
see, I quite like the idea of seeing sea devils swimming because you can do that now with CGI and the technology we've got now. I quite like that idea, you know, but it has to be in a proper sort of story. You know, I'd like to see them there, maybe batting off a great white or something like that.
What they had in this as well, which was really, really good, but it was like they didn't call it that. They had a great sea creature in it, a sea creature that could have been the Murka, but they didn't call it the Murka, and the effects for that sea creature was really, really good. The CGI was great.
What a shame.
Yeah, and they didn't call it the Murka, which is really
maybe Tibnall forgot about the Murka and he could have redeemed it.
He could have redeemed it, but didn't. You know,
it was bizarre, wasn't it, Paul? Because right at the very start, there's this sea devil or lead sea devil or whatever, and it's encased in a statue, isn't it? It's in stone. A stone sea devil, if I remember rightly, and it cracks open and rock everywhere, and it escapes. And it is one of the most absolute bollocks CGI sequences I can recall.
Really?
Yeah.
So you compare the sea creature that Paul's just mentioned to that in the same 45-50 minutes of television. There's so much inconsistent. Oh God.
What a shame. We're getting a lot of, we are predictably and thankfully getting an awful lot of comments about this particular episode in the chat. So thank you for that.
I wonder why.
Matt's saying to us here, I'm betting we'll see a Silurian Sea Devil Romeo and Juliet style romance. Oh God, I hope not. We've got here from Stephen Bradley. I like the Sea Devil head design, but didn't like the story. Paul Ashworth is disagreeing with everybody by saying Legend of the Sea Devils wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. Thank you for that, Paul. Really appreciate your take on that. I'm glad you enjoyed that particular one. And we've got here Raymond saying to us, I haven't seen that Whittaker episode, but I do like the look of the Sea Devils. They were never pirates, though. Oh, okay.
They were kind of dressed like pirates, though.
And is that what he means? Right.
Yeah. They also had designs on one of the confidential type programs showing them wearing tricon hats and stuff like that. So they weren't meant to be like pirates, but they didn't have hats on, but they had like
big cutlass
like
kind of thing as well, didn't it?
Yeah. Say that again, Ian?
Big cutlass kind of thing as well in the belt. It's what a pirate has. You know, that's what they were trying to do. That's the impression they were trying to give.
Peter Venkman Fansite is saying a hypnotic shield. I'm not sure what that means, but it sounds ridiculous. A Sea Devil has a hypnotic shield.
I don't remember that at all. It's all a blurry, I'm telling you. Honestly, it was.
We've also got Julianne saying to us, Legend of the Sea Devils, they looked great, but the story was a mess. Apparently, the production had to be cobbled together because of the pandemic restrictions. Awful. Still not as bad as Series 1, though. Okay.
Oh, I don't know.
That's interesting. And Problem Being said Jodie wore a Chinese tunic. Funny how it's not cultural appropriation when they do it. Good point.
Yeah, very good point.
But Peter Venkman Fansite is saying to Problem Being, but Susan wore it better.
She did indeed, yeah.
Oh, dearie me. Nothing is encouraging me to watch this, and we will not be reviewing that particular episode as part of this series. All right, we're not going to be looking at that. We're stopping at.
We could have forced people to watch it. That'd be quite fun.
Dougie Stewart's joining us saying need the Merca 83 style back. Oh, bless. And Julie Wendy, hello. It's nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. I did love the Wellerman sea shanty. What's that about?
Oh, it was. There's a guy that did a sea shanty. Once was a ship that whatever, and they put it to the Legend of the Sea Devils.
He's on TikTok. It's actually pretty good, but I remember cringing when I found out they were putting it in that. I was like, more trend hopping.
Oh gosh, wasn't the Merc of the Loch Ness monster? Is asking Legion of James.
No, that was a Borad.
It wasn't. Sorry, Peter Venkman was asking that. Wasn't the Merc of the Loch Ness? Yeah, as Paul points out, it was the Borad or the Scarison, as we would know it as well. Scarison, but no, the Merca was the Merca. And actually was created for Warriors of the Deep. So Johnny Byrne, the writer of Warriors of the Deep, must have come up with that himself and then regretted it if he ever saw it on set.
I just wanted to say, as a kid, I always thought that it was meant to be the same dinosaur that was in the caves. I just thought the design had changed.
Well, you will do, I suppose. Yeah, but it's very interesting, isn't it, Jack, that the design of the dinosaur in 1970 was much better than the Merca in 1984.
And that dinosaur was very much like Godzilla, wasn't it? It was a man in a suit, literally.
Yeah. I mean, they got the eye to move, but I don't think the guy doing the growling was very good. It was obviously a guy just going
It also shows you how a director can work with it properly, because it was done properly, it was done quickly, you got the impression, and then your mind does the rest for you. So that was the best thing I've ever seen since sliced bread. Problem being, it's never going to happen. Nope.
He doesn't have your best interests at heart, JT, does he?
Not even for research, JT, for this channel. Come on now.
Not even for research for this channel. No, but that's it. So I just don't understand why they messed around so much with the Silurian design, and then it eventually devolved into this utter nonsense in my eyes. And then we've got this coming up for this year's Christmas episode. I refuse to use the word special.
But it begs the question, though, what are they going to do with the Sea Devils for the spin-off? That's the question.
Oh, I don't know.
God help us.
I have a theory, but I don't want to ruin our evening.
No, exactly. Let's leave that till December, and we'll look at it then, because we've got lots coming up for you, of course, as you know, here on Who's Views over the next few weeks. So, as we continue our Worlds Below season, where we celebrate the Silurians and the Sea Devils, we're going to be looking at Doctor Who and the Silurians this time next week, the same place here on Who's Views. So get out your DVD, get out your VHS, get onto the iPlayer, go to wherever you can, get watching those 7 classic episodes, and join us next week as we start this series. I cannot wait to hear more about what you all think about it. Really looking forward to it. I just want to mention again, and I hate to think what you would think about it today, but Malcolm Hulke, great stories, really bringing these characters to life, really investigating what could have been before us. That is proper Doctor Who in my eyes, and I cannot wait to start investigating this story with you all next week for Doctor Who and the Silurians. And that's where we're going to be heading to. And the week after that, we're going to Warriors Deep, and then on we go. And we are coming to the Sea Devils. We've had some people, are we going to review the Sea Devils? Yes, but we're going to hang fire with that to nearer when this spin-off's coming. But we will get there. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. That card you put up, the picture you made for it is superb. The Silurians look great on it. Really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you like that.
I like it.
Because the Silurians do look good there, don't I? I wanted something that was different to the usual Silurian picture.
It's lovely. Nice bit of art there.
I just want to say, I'm sorry I didn't know that you wanted artwork for this stream. So if you guys have been wondering why my head's been down a lot, it's not because I'm falling asleep. It's because I've actually been working on my design.
Oh, look at
that. That is lovely.
That's fantastic.
That's really good.
Well, Jack, you've got to send that to me. Send those to me, and we'll put them into next week's show. How's that?
I'll colour them in.
Okay, yeah, and you said it because there we go. Yeah, send them.
They're lovely. Well done, mate. Well done.
Yeah. Top notch.
And I'm going to leave. Well, we're going to leave you with the caption that I showed at the very beginning of the show, which is our introduction card. Look, there they are. Okay. So, dum. You can sort of see, okay, the 80s ones, well, we're going to be talking about that more. And now we're here. Anyway, so enough about that. Come and join us. Let's see what you're saying in the chat before we leave you. Wow, Jack, says Graham. There you go. Dalek Eye. Well done, Jack. Jack Silurian looks amazing, says Paul Rose, saying great artwork, Jack. Look at that. Juggy Stewart is saying we need a sword fight and sandwich eating scene.
It's amazing, actually, that a maximum security prison has swords on the wall.
Good point. It's a good point. Great drawing, Jack says. Problem being there. That is a good point, and I'm sure when we get to looking round at the Sea Devils, we will be talking about that. I'm sure. Stephen Braddock is also saying to us here, can't wait for the Silurians show. Great. It's a fab card. It says, Graham, fantastic. Glad you like the thumbnail. And Legion of James is saying to us, a much needed evening of good chat again, folks. Thanks, everyone. Until next time, stay safe, everyone, and go and watch the Silurians. Absolutely. Don't forget, as part of our review show as well, we will also be asking you all for your scores on the TARDIS doors out of 10. So keep that in mind as you're watching those brilliant 7 episodes. I already know what I'm giving it. Anyway, to Paul, to George, to Third Doctor Ian, and to Jack Rabbit. Oh, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you so much for joining me for our start of our World Below series.
Thank you. Great.
Thank you. Loved it.
Lovely. Thank you.
Oh, no, it's been great. And so we will be back. Oh, gosh, I can't wait. We're going to be back with Doctor Who and the Silurians. Don't forget to please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. If you have subscribed already, please make sure you're still subscribed, because that's still going on and we don't know why. You can get in touch with me at whosviews1@gmail.com. There it is there. Look at that. 2 gorgeous. I want those here next week as well, everybody, so we can look at those. So make sure
having a confab.
Oakdale and Jeff, bring them back. Yes.
Fish and chips. Yes. It's all there.
Taxi for GT.
Okay, I need a cup of tea, everybody. Until we see you for Doctor Who and the Silurians, and don't forget as well, we will probably be back with some headlines very soon as well. So stay subscribed to us. Make sure you're ringing the bell so you get notifications when we're going live. Until we see you again next time, from myself and the Whotastic panel, have a great next few days. Looking forward to Doctor Who and the Silurians. We'll see you again next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.